Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, along with Dustin Fox and Mikey McNuggets. I'm Adam the Bull. We've got Anthony and Steve behind the glass. A lot to get to today before we get it started. Let's go to Anthony to find out about our title sponsor today.
Today's title sponsor, guys, is Living for We. You can find new episodes wherever you get your podcasts or on IdeaStream's YouTube channel.
All right, guys. So, by the way, quick story. I went out for breakfast by myself this morning, right? Okay. My son was in school. My wife had a rough night of sleep, so she went back to sleep. So I'm like, I got a lot of time to kill. If there was nothing in the house I felt like eating, I said, there's a new breakfast place in Rocky River. Let me check it out. So,
do you want to name it?
Yeah, it was a solid meal. There was this place called Scramblers. I think it's a chain, I believe.
Yeah, it's really good. There's one out of Great Northern.
Yeah, so they just opened one in Rocky River. So I go in there, and I ordered pancakes, which I probably shouldn't have because it's just so heavy. I don't know. I shouldn't be eating all those carbs right now, but it was whatever. Anyway, so I eat the pancakes. They were good, and the waitress comes back. I had like 2 pancakes, and I had a third one, and I stopped at the third one. I didn't eat the third one, believe it or not. And she's like,
Stop looking at me.
She's like, it's bottomless pancakes. And I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, is somebody coming in? And I can eat, as much as anybody. But I can't eat. I couldn't even eat 3 pancakes.
Were they little silver dollar pancakes
they were huge.
Or full plate pancakes?
And I'm like, that's a good deal. Good job out of Scramblers for providing that deal. But
pancakes cost like 60 cents to make.
But I'm just saying, who's eating more? That's a lot of pancakes.
No one's eating all-you-can-eat pancakes. That's why
that's the point of it.
Does it all the time.
Oh, do they? I didn't realize IHOP does.
That's the point because it takes.
Who's gonna ever eat all-you-can-eat?
I don't know, man.
It's like crab legs, dude.
As crappy as I could eat, as unhealthy, I could eat. When I was younger, I think I could have eaten 6 pancakes maybe, but I don't know. And I looked, and she's looking at me like, "Oh, you're tapping out, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I know I look like someone that could do the all-you-can-eat pancakes, but not today."
Are you a pancake or waffle guy, given the choice?
Pancakes.
Waffle
I had some good chicken and waffles last week.
Where at?
Wally Waffle.
Where's that?
Wally Waffle.
It's a little chain. There's a couple in Akron.
All right. I mean,
it's fantastic.
I do love chicken and waffles.
Chicken and waffles is good. It's a weird combo, though.
No, the sweet and savory.
Not really.
Delicious.
Dude.
I just think it's weird because
it is sweet and savory, dude. Syrup all over it.
You really need 2 plates.
All the above.
To eat that. I don't use syrup. You know me with condiments. I don't use condiments.
Do you use hot sauce?
He don't do that either, dude.
So you don't put any syrup on your pancakes?
No, he's a lame.
No.
Just butter?
Butter, yeah.
Dry?
He raw dogs it, man.
Well, is butter dry?
He raw dogs his pancakes.
I don't use syrup. I don't use mayo. I don't use ketchup.
He's an animal.
I don't use mustard. I don't use any dressings.
Barbecue sauce? Well, do you eat a salad? Do you have...
A salad, I eat plain.
Dude.
What?
I don't like condiments.
By the way, don't look at me, guys. I've dealt with this for the last 15 years of my life.
This is your guy.
The rare times.
How do you eat? Do you
by the way, hold on.
Sauce on the side of your wings?
Hold on. No, I eat sauce on wings.
Okay.
If you eat a salad,
yes.
Okay, if I'm making the rare choice to eat something healthful, it's not healthy if you then put salad dressing on it.
Well, if you doused it in ranch, no, but you could...
Well, that's what most people do.
You could sprinkle a little balsamic vinegar on there.
It's funny because when it comes to foods, main foods, I'll eat anything. I can go to any restaurant. But when it comes to condiments and sauces, I'm very particular. I don't use many. I eat a sandwich, cold cut sandwich.
Just turkey and bread and cheese?
I mean, not usually turkey.
Or whatever.
Ham, roast beef, whatever. Salami.
No mustard?
That's
no
very,
mustard.
very dry.
No mayo. I want to taste the food, not the condiment.
It would help digest, I feel like, with a little bit of...
dude. I mean, I feel like a condiment sort of complements the food. The food's great, but then you can actually make it better.
Yes. Do you use salt? Do you season your food?
Yeah,
of course
definitely.
That.
Yeah.
Well,
I like seasoning.
He's not using ketchup or mustard or barbecue
Here's
sauce.
the funny thing. if I go, and believe it or not, looking at me, you probably think I go a lot, but I don't eat fast food very often,
talked about
right?
this, yeah.
But the other day, we had finished baseball practice, and Aaron was like, he's big into this Minecraft, and the movie's out, and blah, blah, blah.
Did you go see it?
He hasn't seen it yet, because he has these 3 friends, they want to go see it, and there's been a time where one of them can't go for whatever reason. So they're going to go during spring break, which starts on Friday. So he's like, Dad, will you take me to... And we never go to McDonald's. Ever. And nothing against McDonald's. We just don't really go.
Yeah.
So he's like, can we go to McDonald's? I want to get the Minecraft Happy Meal. So I'm like, okay. So I got a burger and fries when we were there. And
Love Mickey D's.
I got ketchup on it. If the burger comes with ketchup, I'll eat it.
Yeah, yes.
But I won't ever put it on.
McDonald's like cheeseburgers, they come with like those diced onions on them.
Yeah.
I would never eat onions on a sandwich, but those like
Right.
They're,
but
they're part of the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, but I get it without mustard though. I can't. Mustard, I just can't eat it all.
If you go to Chick-fil-A,
I don't eat a Chick-fil-A.
if you go to Cane's,
the rare
do you eat the cane
Cane's.
sauce?
No, I do not eat the cane sauce, which is the main reason why most people go there.
With the sauce, yeah. The cane sauce
everybody
is
loves
like
the sauce,
crack.
but I don't eat the sauce. No,
It's just mustard and like mayo. Or
I don't like
ketchup,
mustard,
something like
and I
that.
don't like
Yeah.
mayo. Although I will eat mayo on tuna only. That's the only time I ever eat mayo.
You have the oddest, and I had
Yeah.
I went to your house for this Thanksgiving 2 years ago,
Yeah, I think so.
and it was a great meal. And it didn't even hit me in the moment because
Yeah.
Aaron uses sauces. Aaron had ketchup with his chicken fingers that day.
Aaron's normal.
He eats ketchup on everything.
So he doesn't get that from you. Does your wife, is she a condiment user?
No, she uses condiments.
Well, do you like hot sauce? Like, do you use hot sauce for anything? Like, I put hot sauce on my eggs.
Not really.
Salsa.
No. Salsa, no. Don't like salsa.
No salsa? Chips and salsa?
No.
Chips and dip?
I like French onion dip. Yeah, that I'll eat.
You don't what about like when you eat tacos and like fajitas or like stuff like
No.
Tex-Mex or
No, I eat them
you
plain.
put plain.
I do like
You'd go get like tacos with like meat and lettuce and cheese.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
God, man.
Like I go to Ohio City Burrito. I get the meat.
I like Ohio City
I get the
Burrito.
beans. You know, I get my cheese. I get some veggies,
Guac?
but no guac, no sour cream.
I'm not a sour cream guy, but guac and salsa.
No, I don't like guac. I don't like avocados.
Missing out.
So
I've learned a lot about you this morning, Bull.
yeah, I mean, I will admit
You don't
it's-
do soy
it's
sauce
kinda
with your
usual.
sushi either,
Now,
right?
yes, I do.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Asian
None of this makes sense.
Asian foods is the one area where I use
Like
sauce.
orange chicken. You can't get orange
I
chicken.
don't really like orange chicken.
Or General Tso
obviously,
chicken,
but
whatever.
everything else in Chinese I like, and I love all Asian sauces, all that type of stuff.
Do you like Japanese mayo?
No.
So you don't love them all.
Wait, what's
No.
Japanese mayo?
Spicy mayo.
Spicy mayo.
Yeah, no, I don't really care for that. I'd eat it like if I had if
it was on a sushi
served to
roll or
me, I would
something,
eat it,
okay.
You wouldn't
but I
even
would
know.
never
You'd
choose
eat it.
to.
It'd be- if you got a spicy tuna roll, it'd be like sprinkled on top.
Yeah. But no, I like eel sauce, which is like an Asian sauce.
Fish sauce.
I like brown sauces or like tomato-based sauces, even though I don't like ketchup.
You like
we-
A1?
Nah, I'm not. I'm not.
I
You
put
put
A1
A1 on a steak?
They put A1 on everything.
Dustin uses it for, that's the one thing I knew about Dustin.
That's inappropriate.
A1's the best.
You-
It's
yeah,
the best
you-
condiment.
If you go to a steakhouse and use A1, the steak is shit.
Dude, listen. First off,
Yeah.
I don't use steak on if I go to a good steakhouse.
Yeah.
I don't use it. But if I did put it on it, it would.
If he likes
it'd be
A1,
pretty
let him-
awesome.
let him use
I mean,
A1,
All right,
yeah.
yeah,
A1's
to each
pre-
his own. See,
A1's
I'm not making fun of your choices.
Pretty delicious.
Last food question, then we can
Yeah.
get into real topics. You don't like sauces.
Right.
If you have pasta, do you like ragu? Like a
No, I like
sauce
tomato
with-
sauce. I don't. I just don't like ketchup.
Okay. Because if you were started raw dog pasta,
Nah.
Then I'd have an
Well,
issue.
I would raw dog pasta. I could,
Man,
but I.
raw dog and some penne
Wait, you
pasta.
gotta at least put like butter on it, right?
butter,
No,
butter
I-
noodles.
I put sauce. I put traditional.
But you just said you
Marinara
would
sauce.
raw dog it.
Yeah, like
I
what does that
would.
mean? Like no butter, no nothing? Just a
I
straight
would.
noodle
Yeah,
right out of the
sure.
pan?
I like plain pasta, but I don't really do that. But like,
As an Italian, I'm
I
offended.
would.
all right, that
Let's
Do
face
you
it.
order like mac
I'm
and
more
cheese,
Italian
hold
than
the
Andy.
cheese?
What's that?
Do you do mac and cheese?
I
Hold
don't
the
really
cheese?
like. I'm not a big mac and cheese guy. But if I did I love cheese. Yeah, sure.
What do you put on a hot dog?
I don't
No.
really eat hot dogs very often, but if I do, I usually eat them plain. If I'm at the ballpark, I might get some like chili and onions.
I do like chili and onions.
Yeah, I'm not. No ketchup, no mustard for me. Everybody's obsessed with that ballpark mustard. Not me, baby. The one that shocks people the most is the no syrup on pancakes
Or waffles.
Or waffles, yeah.
It just feels like it's a different meal without it.
I don't I don't use the powdered sugar on French toast.
I don't like that either. That gets too sweet for me.
I like that.
All right, now that we've established you're from another planet, let's continue.
Hey, there's people like me out there too. I've never had a cup of coffee either. I know you haven't either, I think, right?
No, coffee to me is
gross.
I can't drink it. It makes me want to vomit. Like it
develops
worse.
The least caffeinated trio of people ever.
Dude, listen,
on the show.
I wish that I could drink coffee.
Why,
I wish,
for energy?
Yes. Well, first off, there's a million things that are great about coffee.
Yeah.
It is good for you.
And the worst is the taste.
It's awful.
But I do enjoy the smell of coffee. I enjoy the idea of coffee. I like going to coffee shops. I like the communal bond of getting coffee. Or going to Starbucks or whatever and sitting there, but I just don't drink coffee. Like I went to Starbucks with a buddy over the weekend and we had a nice chat for 45 minutes.
A tea?
Caramel apple spice.
There you go.
Is it just the taste, Dustin?
It's just the taste.
I feel bad.
Tea
Go
and
to
coffee I
Gypsy
can't.
Bean.
What's that?
Go to Gypsy Bean. It's over on Detroit, right next to Brew Nuts. They've got so many different flavors. I bet they have one that you'd like.
If it has any sort of coffee flavor to it, I will not.
I don't like coffee ice cream.
Coffee ice cream, nasty.
I don't like coffee
nasty.
anything.
No, I can't. Bernie, no tiramisu, none of that.
I feel bad. Like Bernie has his coffee, and he's always trying to get me to drink his coffee, but I can't do it. I can't.
do the
I
taste.
just find the taste nauseating. All right, Anthony, let's kick it off.
Let's get into our first couple reads here, and then our first topic of the day. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet. You'll get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how easy FanDuel is to bet on, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS to get your $200 or $250 in bonus bets today. And today is also brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, and practicing every detail to get the best result. But no player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hard-working manufacturers, distributors, and who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. You see your whole supply chain easier, and from small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Easier doesn't cut corners, easier finds a lane. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
All right, let's kick it off with the Guardians, who win last night against the Orioles 6-3. The Guardians have now won 6 of their last 7. Very strong performance from Logan Allen. Got to give him credit. He's pitched very well so far. He's gotten better every start so far this year.
I thought last night was his best start since his rookie season, basically.
Yeah, well,
he was awesome
last year.
I know it's not saying a lot, but he was very good last night. Struck out 3 of the first 4 batters he faced, and his off-speed stuff was getting swings and misses, which it hadn't been in the first 2 starts of the season.
Yeah, he did great. I mean, I'm not a big Logan Allen guy. I've never been particularly high on him. But against the Orioles lineup, 4 base runners, no runs, and 6 strikeouts in 5 2/3. They were always Stephen Vogt's always grabbing these guys before that last out of the inning. I got to let these guys get some more depth. But whatever. I mean, 5 2/3 for him is pretty solid. I can't believe we're in a state of baseball. You know, I feel like when I was a kid, if you pitcher didn't go 7, at minimum 7. Let alone 8 or 9, you know, they'd go all the time, and you'd be like, oh, it was a short. Now 5 2/3, it's like, oh, it's a pretty good start. But he was great last night, and Baltimore's a tough place to pitch. Obviously, they have a very good lineup in Baltimore. I know they're not off to a particularly good start, but that was impressive. He did a good job, and another big thing last night, guys, was Emmanuel Clase, who did give up 1 hit.
It's going to bring him up. You know, he's been frustrating.
Yeah, but last night he got it done.
Yeah, but he still gave up a hit.
Well, I don't want to nitpick. He got 1 hit. You know, Jay the other day was saying they should send him down to the minors. I mentioned yesterday I thought that was way too extreme a decision. He at this point, he hasn't cost him any games. It was only his 3rd save opportunity. He got it. He's 2 out of 3, and the one he blew, they won the game in extra innings. So I don't know that we need to make extreme moves right now. As bad a start as they got off to in that road trip out west, they're 9-7. They're a half game behind Detroit. They're in perfectly fine shape. There's no need to make any panic moves this early in the season.
No, I don't know if it's my big takeaway from last night. Logan Allen was the story last night.
Yeah.
But boy, I have to ask about Rocchio, because we had the entire Rocchio experience yesterday. He saves an out when Ramirez kind of fumbled the ball. He catches it fires a dart to first base to get Gary Sanchez, who might be the slowest guy in baseball, but that's an incredible defensive play.
Yeah.
Then he has a terrible error at short later in the game, sails it over Carlos Santana at first base, ends up giving up a base, hits the sac fly, scores a run or drives in a run, gets an RBI, and then gets doubled up at second base on a base running mistake that Jason described in the group text yesterday as a drunk old man running the bases.
Yeah.
And Tyler O'Neill, I'm not a baseball savant by any means. I don't have spreadsheets like Bull. I don't play fantasy baseball. Tyler O'Neill has one of the best arms in baseball. That's one of the things that if you don't even know who Tyler O'Neill is and you just think generally speaking, who are the strongest armed outfielders in baseball? Like Tyler O'Neill comes to mind. How Rocchio got that far off the base. Yeah, his dad's a former Mr. Olympia bodybuilder in Canada. Like, dude's yoked out of his mind. But how Rocchio gets that far off the base on a shallow fly to right field that wasn't deep enough to ever tag up on with Tyler O'Neill, I don't know. So it was the entire roller coaster, the Rocchio roller coaster, we'll call it, yesterday. 2 good plays, 2 bad plays. So I don't know what you make of the overall performance and what to really do with him because he hasn't been hitting at the same level he did in the postseason last year, and his defense has been average at best this year.
Yeah, well, again, like the Class A thing, even though he has much less of a track record than Class A, I'm not making any panic moves, and I'm going to give him some time, especially because it's not like they got a million great options at shortstop at the moment.
I'm not suggesting send him down. I'm just asking.
Right. Now, the base running is a concern. This has been an issue since he first came to the big leagues. He is a bad base runner on a team that generally runs the bases very well. Jose's defense, honestly, is a little bit of a concern right now. He's having a terrible start to the season defensively.
The one he fumbled yesterday is a routine play.
It's
Jose
weird.
makes that 99 out of 100 times.
I think he's banged up.
Sloppy.
Because he never talks about his injuries.
Well, yeah, but he's hitting well. So, like in the past when he's been banged up, and maybe he is, I don't know. I don't want to give him a built-in excuse. You're right, he doesn't talk about his injuries. Usually he slumps offensively when he's hurting, which we've seen at times in the past. But obviously he's hit well, but his defense has just been poor. I don't know. Maybe it's him starting to get a little older, so that's, fraying from his game a little bit. And he has cooled off a little offensively the last couple of games, but still, he's 4 homers, 8 ribbies, and 842 OPS is really good.
Had a sac fly last night too.
Yeah, but Rocchio's been terrible. He's been terrible this season so far, and his base running has just consistently been an issue. That's weird. It's weird to see a young player be such a bad base runner, especially a shortstop, because usually shortstops have such good baseball instincts. Like, to be a shortstop, you have to have good baseball instincts, and so his base running is so poor, it's strange.
I know coaching Little League and coaching in the majors is night and day different.
Oh,
but,
you think?
But I'm genuinely asking, is even at a young age, is base running just instinctual, and some guys have the knack for it and some guys don't? Or is that something you can teach and improve upon as a player gets older and older?
I think a lot of it has to do with instincts, Adam. You could speak to it more. Ahead. I mean, I stopped playing when I was in 8th grade, but I mean, it just appears to be some guys have a better feel just from watching the game.
And they're not even the fastest guys. They just have that itch.
It's instincts is something that in every sport that I've played my whole life, it's something you just can't coach. Yeah. Now, I'm sure you can improve on certain other things, and obviously the coaches, the base running coaches, can help you on the base path. But what do you think, Adam?
No, you're right. It's 95% instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can improve a little bit with coaching, but it's instinct. I'll give you an example, which I may have mentioned before. I'm sure I mentioned it on Bull and Fox. When I was a junior in high school, obviously I wasn't this heavy, but I wasn't skinny. When I was a junior in high school, I led my team in stolen bases.
Attaboy.
I'm like, for my size, I was always, had decent speed for my size. Not anymore. But I had great instincts in baseball. I didn't have enough talent to get as far as I wanted to go, but I had excellent instincts in playing baseball. And I just knew I was always on the move when I was on the bases. So when I was at first base, I was always moving a little bit. So the second the pitcher let go of the ball, I was already in motion. I talk to the kids, and this is a thing throughout baseball, no matter how old you are, about baseball. It's funny because baseball in a way seems like very square. Guys are, in their uniforms, and everybody's got to look the same. And in a way, it seems like football's got a lot more. And basketball have a lot more, showboating or
individualism,
right? But you got to have rhythm in baseball. If you watch baseball really carefully, it feels like guys are standing around all the time, but they're not. If you watch every hitter, go home tonight, watch the Guardians game. Every hitter is moving. It may be a tiny amount. It may only be their wrist. It may only be an elbow or a knee or whatever, but you got to be in rhythm. If you're just standing there and then boom. Yeah, the kids, I see all the time, there's some kids that stand there like this, they wait for the ball to come, and then they just go like this with their arms. You can't hit that way. You've got to be in rhythm. You've got to be loose. I've gotten some of the kids to like basically where they're kind of almost dancing in the batter's box to give them some rhythm. What's that?
Gary Sheffield?
Well, yeah, I mean, stuff like that, because you've got to have rhythm. And it's the same thing with base running. Like, to be a good base runner, you've got to have rhythm on the bases. You've got to, like, feel the flow of the energy of the game. It sounds a little silly, but you've got to, if you're reading the pitcher, you've got to be moving. If you're flat-footed, and this is anything with running, right? If you're flat-footed, you're going to get off to a terrible start. You can't be flat-footed when you're running.
In any sport is a bad position to be in. It's not an athletic position.
Right.
And you can't fully, just from a body mechanics standpoint, you can't get the rhythm, the fluidity, the momentum, like all the power. You can't get it.
Yeah. It's also in the field why you'll see, like I see a lot of kids, I'll stand up for a second. I see a lot of kids for Little League, they stand there like this. Oh. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Man,
you're flat-footed and off balance. Like, you know, you can't have that. As in the field, you see guys.
Those kids, man, you look like an erection out there, man.
Yeah, right.
Bend your knees, dude.
Don't say that to a kid.
Yeah, no, I definitely will not.
Mel Tucker used to say, D'Antonio and Tucker used to say
in
all
college.
the time. Yeah, in college.
You
look like an erection out there.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
That's not good. You don't want to look stiff.
And he plays right next to Jose. And Jose's as good of a base runner, despite the fact that he's not the fastest guy in the league by any means, but he's always gets a big jump. And he's always really good at reading the ball off the bat. And he's always seemed to steal bases in situations where it's like, oh, he just got a great jump. The catcher made a good throw. The pitcher delivered the ball. It wasn't a breaking ball in the dirt. And he still gets there. And he plays literally right next to him in the field, shortstop to third base.
Yeah.
And they don't bat next to each other, but they're around each other. After that, you would assume that some of that may assimilate onto him and rub off what it hasn't.
I just think it's unusual for a shortstop not to be as instinctual as a base runner, just because of the nature of that position. You're so involved with every play. But Jose is not one of the fastest guys in baseball, but he's one of the best base stealers and base runners.
Quan too. Quan's not the fastest guy, but very good instincts.
And the Guardians overall, very good base running team. And like, who's super fast on the team?
On the Guardians?
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, Miles Straw was the guy, but he's gone.
You just assume that Quan can move, right?
Quan's fast, but he's not like a blazer.
No, they're just
Lane Thomas might be their fastest 90-foot guy.
But Steven Kwan, like Ramirez, is a very instinctual runner. What's that?
I was going to say, Schneeman's pretty fast.
He hit that great inside the park homer the other day.
I feel like I haven't seen Schneeman enough on the bases especially this year, to remember how good how fast he is. Anyway, all right, Anthony, we'll leave it there. What do you got for us? What do you got?
All right, guys, we're going to go to football here real quick after a read from LinkedIn. As small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free and share with your network and get qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helped them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
Got two good guests coming up later in the show. Dane Brugler, of course, from The Athletic. His 7-round mock draft just came out. We'll talk about what he has the Browns doing. We'll talk with him at noon. And Ben Solak, who's an NFL writer for ESPN, will join us at 12:30. Right now, we'll talk about the potential of the Browns trading up. I know Anthony suggested, could the Browns, trade up for a wide receiver? Tet McMillan.
Well, to set that up, he visited the Browns on a top 30 visit this week. Right. So he was in town. McMillan, who is considered, if you take Hunter out of the equation because he's the combo receiver, defensive back, McMillan's either the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver on every draft expert's big board. Some have him 1, some have Matthew Golden 1, but he was here in Cleveland on a visit.
It was an odd guy, honestly, to
have a top 30 visit list.
Right, because he doesn't seem like a guy that would be
A lot of times, Adam,
Yeah.
teams will take a top 30 visit on a player that they just maybe missed or need to get some due diligence on. They'll bring a player in. Maybe they didn't get to spend enough time with him at the combine or what have you. And that's why they brought in like 3 or 4 of the top receivers that could go in the first round. You're like, well, the Browns aren't going to be able to pick that guy.
Right.
Well, this just goes, I mean, the Patriots forever have interviewed guys that they had no interest in drafting, but you never know. Like, what if a player, there's a trade down, and the Browns all of a sudden are picking in a spot where this guy falls to them.
Yeah.
They want to have the information. So,
That's fair.
so I wouldn't read too much into these top 30 visits other than the team wants to make sure they have all the right information about this guy prior to the draft, just in case.
And on Ted McMillan in specific, if he was to fall or the Browns were to somehow target him as a guy, hey, we need to get, he's the opposite of what they have in the receiver room. I mean, he's a 6'4", legitimate outside X receiver, big-bodied guy, jump ball kind of guy, contested catch kind of guy, which if you're going into the assumption they drafted Travis Hunter at number 2 and Jerry Jeudy's your number 2 receiver, those are more create separation, not necessarily slot guys, but less big-bodied red zone threat and more smaller, go-deep guys. So it would be a good compliment in the receiver room, but I don't anticipate him being available.
Travis Hunter and then draft a wide receiver again. I can't see that happening.
Unless they want to
in a row.
I tend to agree, but unless they want to completely revamp the receiver room and say, we like a lot of these guys in the receiver class here, we'll address other needs later. They do have 10
I don't know.
picks,
I think it's unlikely, but like you said, doing due diligence, obviously nothing wrong with that. And if by some chance he dropped to them at 33, maybe they do go change their mind because they didn't expect it. I can't see any scenario where the Browns trade up into the first round for anything but a quarterback. Anybody see any scenario?
I do, actually.
You do?
I do. Now, quarterback is by far the most likely of all the options. If they're going to trade back up from 33 to 24 or 28, 29, whatever, it's most likely going to be a quarterback. But let's just say the Browns have done their due diligence and they don't love the value of a Milroe or a Shuck.
Yeah.
I have to say the F word and then the SH word to get that.
Good.
Or any of the other quarterbacks that would be there at 33 to trade up for.
Yeah.
When you look at, and we'll talk to Dane Brugler about this in a little bit, the offensive tackle position in this class does not have an elite top tier, this guy's a surefire top 5 pick offensive tackle. Will Campbell and Armand Mahmoud from Missouri, the top 2 guys, most likely top 10 picks, but they're by no means like a consensus. This guy is definitely the guy. Mm-hmm. Some guys like Mahmoud better. Some guys like Will Campbell better. In Brugler's mock, he had Will Campbell going forward, but whatever. After those 2, his next 4 or 5 tackles, and Todd McShay's next 4 or 5 tackles, and Mel Kiper's next 4 or 5 tackles, all fall in that 19 to 35-ish range. And the Browns, with the unquestioned and uncertainty of DeJuan Jones' health, with the age of Jack Conklin, if they see an offensive tackler, they say, we think that guy might be a top 15 player in this draft. And he's going to be available at 25 or 26, whether it be Donovan Jackson or Josh Simmons from Ohio State, or it be the guy from Boston College that Dane Brugler had them mocked to today, or it be Josh Connolly from Oregon. One of those guys that they say, hey, we actually think he might be the best tackle in the draft. We like him more than we like Will Campbell, who had arms at the combine that measured shorter than prototypical left tackle status. Or we don't like Mahmoud out of Missouri because he's never played left tackle in the NFL. He's only played right tackle. We actually think Simmons or Connolly is the best tackle in the draft at 24, 25, 26, whatever that range may be. If one of those guys is still on the board, I could see a scenario where the Browns address the offensive line by trading up to get one of those guys just to ensure they get their top tackle. I don't think it's a receiver. I doubt it's a running back. I don't even see it really being a defensive player. But if it's not quarterback and the Browns do make a trade up, I could see it being for an offensive tackle there.
What do you think?
I hate offensive tackles taking them high just because it's
not sexy.
A sexy
it's just
pick.
not sexy.
And it's like there's not a Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
There's not you name it, a top tier guy that is like a once in a generation type of tackle. There seems like there's good players, but there's no one that just stands out as like this guy has to be the guy. So I don't like the idea of that, especially not high in the draft. But honestly, like if the Browns don't take a quarterback at 2 and they don't take Travis Hunter, I think it's the biggest mistake ever.
Oh my God! If they don't take either quarterback or Hunter, it would be beyond stupid.
Because a lot of people think they'll take Abdul Carter at 2.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I hate the idea of taking Abdul Carter. Nothing against him, but your theory on the offensive line.
What if they took Ashton Genty at 2?
It's the stupidest thing ever.
I'm just saying.
A running back at 2?
I'm just saying. Saquon Barkley went top 5.
He went 2.
That was stupid.
Pick. It was stupid. He's very, very good, but it was...
Won the Eagles Super Bowl. They didn't draft him.
They didn't draft him. Wouldn't have won the Giants anything. This idea of piling...
I don't know that anybody would win the Giants anything.
The Giants are crap, and it's fair to pick on them, but to crap on them for not signing Barkley is stupid because they wouldn't have won with Barkley.
No, they would have won 1 or 2 more games.
A running back doesn't make a bad team good. A quarterback does. A running back can make a very good team better.
Great, yeah.
But it can't make a bad team good,
right?
No matter how good the back is.
But this year, I mean, if it's going to be Flacco for the most part,
yeah.
You've got to have. They're going to draft a running back. I'm not saying they're going to draft one at 2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take a running back at 2. I'm just throwing it out there to see your crazy reaction.
That is nuts, but not as nuts as trading up for some slappy offensive lineman. Are you out of your mind?
Listen, I said I don't think it's likely, but
you just said all 5 of these guys are considered to be the same. Why would you trade up for one of them? I don't know if that's true. Even
if the Browns liked one significantly more than the rest, and they were sitting there at 24, 25, and they said, "Hey, we have this guy as a top 15 prospect.
First of all, the Browns don't know what the F they're doing. They get it wrong all the time when it comes to offensive line.
Well, I'm going with this under the assumption that you have to trust the guys in the position who have scouted these guys for
if they're all
months and years.
Even if the Browns think one of them is clearly better than the rest, but if the Browns know that the general consensus is they're all the same, then the Browns are not going to making a panic move to trade up. It doesn't make any sense to me. I
don't think it's a panic move, though. If you identify one of those guys, it doesn't matter the name. We'll use Josh Simmons for the sake of discussion. If they say, we think Josh Simmons is at a tier above the other 4 guys who would be on the board there, and we don't love our offensive tackle
take the
situation.
Other one, wait to 33, take the other one, and friggin' coach him up for once. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great in theory, but if you really like one of the guys more than the other, I have no problem. The Browns have enough draft picks that if they like certain players, any position, yes, they do.
87 6th-round picks, those are meaningless.
If you have to give up a 4th and a 6th to move up 7 spots to get a guy you really like as opposed to potentially letting him slide away and settling for someone else, then I don't have an issue with them moving up to get a player they want.
I don't know. I think that would be
I'd rather them, with Andrew Berry being in the situation they're in and Kevin Stefanski being in the situation they're in.
Yeah.
If you've identified guys you think are going to be productive, solid NFL players for your team, and you have a chance to go get those guys, be aggressive and go get those guys.
Yeah, well, but those guys are likely to. If those guys are likely to make it to you when you draft, you don't do that. That's a panic move.
Well, that's a risk you're willing to take.
If these offensive linemen are all just a bunch of guys, then I don't know. I just think it's easy to just say, well, if you want them, go get them no matter what. I get that at quarterback. At offensive tackle, what, the Browns know something that nobody else does? What are the odds of that?
Well, if there's no consensus, though, you may like a guy more than another team,
all right,
which would allow you to get
up.
up.
He could just as easily slip to you at 33.
I mean, Jalen Milroe could fall to 33.
I don't want
all these guys could fall to 33.
I don't want the Browns to take
I'm not advocating to trade up.
Period.
I'm not advocating to trade up to get
You're advocating.
I'm saying if they were, it's not a receiver. It'd be for an offensive lineman because I think there's a bunch of guys in this conglomerate.
Devil's advocating. At least something. Some
you're
sort of advocating for this.
I'm just saying, I don't think it'd be batshit crazy if they were to do that. If they like it, listen, if you're going to get a quarterback at some point, you need an offensive lineman and a left tackle or right tackle to help protect him, keep him upright. Do you trust DeJuan Jones to stay healthy?
No.
You have Jack Conklin for this year, and what's your plan after that?
I don't trust Andrew Berry to get the pick right now. That being said, I've said this a million times. If you don't trust Andrew Berry, then it's all pointless anyway. So
yeah, there we go.
You know. But if he screws up and takes Abdul Carter at 2, then the whole thing's shot anyway. And they're screwed.
Abdul Carter might turn out to be an incredible player. Very well. I mean, he's legitimately a blue-chip prospect.
Clowney.
You never know.
Just a guy.
But if the Browns take him, I'm with you, Bull. It's just the excitement that would not be there the same way it would be for a Hunter or a quarterback. I'm sorry. It wouldn't.
It's funny. A bigger picture conversation that, whatever, we may not have time for, but I've really thought a lot about, I've always been a big fan of analytics. I think analytics make us smarter, right? Give us more information, better information than we've had in the past. When I was a kid, we would judge pitchers based on wins. And I think about that now, and that's insane. You still have, when people do updates on the radio, why any company is paying somebody to do updates, I have no idea at this point. But anyway, I don't want people to lose jobs. I know why they do it, because they put sponsors in there. But anyway, they still give wins. I hear these update guys give wins. The older people in this business, just older than me, guys like Jay, they'll bring up wins all the time. Pitcher wins are meaningless. They tell you nothing about a pitcher. Nothing. Absolutely zero. I don't even consider pitcher wins at all as any kind of legitimate stat. But I think in a lot of ways we've also gone too far when it comes to analytics. You know, you think about this Ben Solak, who's going to be on with us, right? Mm-hmm. He started a whole hubbub on Twitter last year when the Bills lost to
the Chiefs.
The Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. He tweeted out, you know, the dots of, you know, Josh Allen had somebody in the flat, and meanwhile, was it Dawson Knox?
Dawson Knox ended up dropping the pass. Yeah.
Dropped the pass, right? Okay. First of all, it's easy for us sitting on the sideline to say the quarterback should have thrown the ball here, there, wherever in this big moment. The receivers are paid to catch the ball, catch the freaking ball. Okay? But we're so obsessed with the statistics, the analytics, the dots, all these things. And I know dots aren't analytics, but that we have, to some degree, we've gone too far.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And we make everything into a number. It's in the same vein that I was talking about yesterday, where I've always been like, the Browns should lose. They should suck, get a higher pick. But that kills your culture in the locker room. And so eventually you can't keep doing that, especially when you're screwing up all the draft picks anyway.
There's a human element to sports.
And and too often, when we're so obsessed with the numbers and the analytics, we forget about the human element. Now, if Jay were here, he'd be like, aha, Bull, I told you that. But the problem is the guys like Jay go too far the other way. They don't want to hear about analytics at all. And I don't know if Jay's really in that category, but there are people that they don't want to hear about analytics at all, and they're wrong too. But I think some of us, and I think I put myself in that category, have gone a little too far on turning everything into a number and getting away from some of the human element. And I don't know what it was. I didn't remember what the conversation was that got me into this.
Abdul Carter too was somehow the launching point for analytics.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it got me into this.
I don't really disagree with. Do you disagree with what he's saying?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you at all.
It's too much. It's too much. It's good information at times, but it's overkill.
I love basketball numbers. I mean, you guys know I spend way too much time on the NBA database and all this.
Yeah.
But the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, Mobley, Draymond, Amen Thompson, Zubac. I said this yet. There are 5 guys with legitimate cases, and it just depends on which numbers you want to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I don't have a vote. Chris Fedor put out his vote yesterday, and he ended up voting for Evan Mobley. If I had a vote, I would vote for Evan Mobley. And I'm probably slightly biased considering I watch him night in and night out, unlike Dyson Daniels and Thompson and all those guys. But you can find any stat to back up your point you want. And you can find any percentile index and how they compare and what he does better than what Draymond does versus what Amen Thompson does versus what Ivanka Zubac does. And at the end of the day, I ended up just asking myself, game on the line.
Yeah.
Player X is guarding player Y. Who do I think is going to get a stop? And like at some point, that's simplifying it too much.
Well,
but you can also go the complete opposite direction and convolute the entire discussion with stats. And some people don't even know how they're calculated.
That's true. The problem with what you're saying, though, is like if in Chris's example, you mentioned Chris Fedor, like he's watching Evan Mobley play every day. Chris is a big basketball guy, but I'm sure he's not watching the other guys play every day. Well, he wouldn't have time for that. He's covering the Cavs.
Yeah.
So you got to use the numbers in that situation to some degree to be fair about it, because you can't you have those personal relationships. He covers Evan, and there's going to be some biases. I think Chris is a pretty unbiased guy, but there's going to be some biases in those situations. I honestly don't give a rat's ass. I mean, I hope good for Mobley, but like to have
I was just saying that as an example. I wasn't saying that's like the end all be all.
Yeah.
But just an example where you could parse out whatever numbers you want to support this player as opposed to that player.
What I really hate about this is we now used to just get mad when our player lost these awards. Now we get mad for 3 months based on the odds for these awards. For 3 months, how is Evan Mobley not the favorite to win this? I mean, this is nuts.
Dustin, can I ask you a question real quick
sure,
on the analytics versus eye test? When you look at the two prospects, whether it be Hunter, Carter, and you want to throw Genty in there, you could throw Genty in there. Someone who played at the highest of high levels of football, do you just look at Hunter versus Carter versus Genty and say, I just think that guy's going to be the better pro? Like, in your mind, is there one guy that just kind of stands out from everything you've watched? Take the numbers and the stats out of it.
Listen, I just think there's one guy that has done something that really nobody else has done in a long time. And he's special. Like, I just think that there's something about that guy, talking about Travis Hunter now, where the other guys, they're great. They're elite level athletes, whatever position they play, whether it be defensive end or offensive tackle or running back, as you mentioned, Genty there as well. I just think that this kid, Travis Hunter, from the second he's done anything in sports his whole life, I mean, go back and look at his upbringing. Like, the kid's a winner. The kid has dedicated his life to the sport and can go for days. Like, there's just not a lot. Like, people aren't built like that kid. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but in terms of his athletic ability, his drive, the intangibles are off the chain. And that's why I would want to have him on this team, especially when you're trying to sort of turn this thing back around. You need a franchise-saving type of player, and if it's not going to be a quarterback, why not this guy?
There's no way any other non-quarterback could have the impact on the Browns in winning.
Yeah, the guy he can change the city's mindset, like and just excitement level for the season, because like, it's not going to be a great year. Like, they're going to win games. The Browns are going to win games. I firmly believe.
Much more competitive.
Yeah, dude. Like, everything you saw last year. Like, if Flacco would have been here on the exact same team, you sub him in for Deshaun or whoever was starting
they win 6, 7, 8 games.
At least 7, 8 games, I think. And we probably have a different tone on this offseason going into this year and where we think about the team, because if you win 8 games, you're not in misery like this 3-14 type of year.
Yeah.
You know?
But then you couldn't have gotten Travis Hunter.
True.
Maybe it was perfect to let Joe go and now bring him back.
Hey, listen, if the Browns are that smart, I got to bridge the side.
Yeah, they're definitely not that smart. That's fair. But I don't know that I agree with you guys that they would have won 8 last year, but they certainly would have won more than 3. I don't know that Joe Flacco at this point in his career is worth 5 extra wins. And
they had the worst quarterback playing.
I hear you, but remember, he's also was 39.
Yeah.
Hasn't played a full season in a long time. I don't know that we can expect him to play 17 games this year. I think everybody would agree they would win more games. How many more? Who knows? Obviously, he just brings a level of professionalism and he just raises the floor of what the offense is capable of. But they were lacking talent. Now, if you add Travis Hunter, you add a young back in the 3rd round, it could be a different story. And if they draft Jalen Milroe, that's an option too of using him in certain packages to help the offense as well. All right, from the Browns to the Cavs now.
Hey guys, before we get to the Cavs, gun violence is an epidemic. It's the leading cause of death for teenagers. And on this season of Living for We, we're asking what can be done to end the cycles of violence in cities like Cleveland, where the shooters value their reputation over their own lives and see innocent bystanders as collateral damage. Living for We is more than a podcast. It's a resource for communities tired of chaos and ready to build peace. Living for We tells real stories of those affected and solutions from change makers in the community, the families, the parents, the victims, and everything in between. The mission is simple: empower communities to create safer neighborhoods free from gun violence by highlighting local heroes, connecting resources and solutions, and building bridges through honest community-driven dialogue. Join hosts Marlene Harris-Taylor and Maisha Watkins every other Tuesday for a new episode of Living for We. Keep your head up. You can find this award-winning show wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch full episodes by searching for Living for We on YouTube.
All right, Anthony. The Cleveland Cavaliers, of course, will start the playoffs on Sunday. We now know they're playing at 7 p.m. We don't know who they're playing against yet. Tonight, the Bulls will host the Heat. The winner of that game will play in Atlanta on Friday. And then the winner of that game will be in Cleveland on Sunday, as we said, 7 o'clock. Obviously, a big advantage that whoever the Cavs play will have to have played 2 games, including one just 2 nights earlier. Do you guys have a preference right now between the
on
3?
Who they play?
I know everybody would not a big deal. Orlando was obviously the team you wanted to play least. Between Miami, Atlanta, and
Chicago,
thank you. Who's your choice? Who would be? In what order would you take them, Dustin, to play? Or do you think it doesn't even matter? They're going to sweep or win in 5 easily?
I would say I'd probably rather play the Bulls first. Then it would be the Heat, then the Magic.
Not the Magic, Hawks.
Excuse me, Hawks.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd want to play the Bulls, then the Hawks, and then even though Miami is the least talented of the 3 teams, Spo is a magician when it comes to some of these playoff
makes me
series.
nervous.
He's literally a coach by himself is the only reason I wouldn't want to be in a series with them. But the Cavs should win all 3 of those in 5 without question. That's like saying, would you rather win $1 million, $1 million and $5, or $1 million and $10? Like, they're all good options for the Cavs. But I'm more interested in some of the guys for Cleveland who haven't necessarily shown up on a playoff stage yet, Bull, and whether or not you guys are confident that they'll be able to continue producing at the levels we had seen this season in a playoff scenario where Jared Allen once famously said, the lights are a lot brighter.
Yeah. Before you get to that, let me just say that I don't give a rat's ass who they play between the 3. They all suck.
Yeah.
Don't give me this Spoelstra crap. I know he's a good coach. I know they're a great organization, but they suck this year.
They do.
They're not challenging the Cavs. Neither are the Hawks. Neither are the Bulls. The Cavs should sweep at either of them. 5 at worst, you lose 1 game in their building in game 3 or 4. That Cavs have no business not taking care of business. They're healthier, they're fresher, they're more talented, they have home court advantage. It should be an absolute sweep, worst case scenario 5, and that's it. Now, to your question, are we worried about the lights being bright?
On a player-by-player basis.
Yeah.
Who are you most concerned will have either a drop-off in production from regular season and postseason or just won't be ready to seize the moment, which is this Cavs playoff run now?
I'm most concerned about Darius Garland. I'm not really – I have a little concern about everybody just as a team as a whole because at times they've shown some weakness in the postseason. But I feel pretty confident overall in this team, especially in the first couple of rounds. But if I had to pick a guy I'm most nervous about, it's Darius. He hasn't played well in the second half of the year. I kind of downplayed it. I don't think it's a big deal. But he really struggled last season. He struggled in the playoffs. And he's a guy that in the playoffs, when it's a completely different sport, we understand that in all sports the playoffs are different. But there's no bigger difference than in the NBA where the regular season's mostly a joke and the playoffs are super intense.
You saw it last night.
Absolutely. And Darius Garland is a player who on the defensive end has major problems. When you're playing a team that is only in the regular season, you can't be only focused on one team, maybe for that night, but you're not preparing for a long time for one team. In the playoffs, that's all you do is prepare for that one team. And when teams, especially past the first round, have a chance to prepare to play the Cavs, I am a little worried that he will get taken advantage of on the defensive end, and that could also hurt his confidence, which then would negatively affect his offense. So he would be the guy I'm most concerned. Now, all that being said, I'm not overly concerned. I think they're going to play really well. I think they're a different team this year. I think, obviously, the coach makes a big difference. So I don't have a huge concern, but if I had to pick one guy, it would be Darius.
Dustin?
That you don't trust.
That I'm most concerned about the lights being too bright.
So is the question who I do trust or who I don't trust?
Oh, sorry. I answered the wrong way. I went with the don't. So you can go.
Well, it goes both. Who do you trust? And then if you don't trust him, who don't
I'll
you?
keep it real simple. There's one guy I trust, and that's Donovan Mitchell. Mm-hmm. And everybody else, we'll find out.
I thought we saw from Evan in the playoffs last year against Boston. Now, granted, there was no Porzingis in that series, but at the end of that Boston series, and you can make a case that in game 6, game 5, what did they lose in 5 or 6? I think it was 5.
Yeah.
In game 5, Evan Mobley was the best player on the court for either team in a game where the Cavaliers lost, but Boston advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. Darius is a fair pick. He was their best player against the Knicks 2 playoffs ago. He was the only guy that showed up offensively.
Yeah.
Last year, obviously, the season from hell, regular season and postseason. He struggled in the second half of this season. Kenny Atkinson talked about this after their final game of the regular season on last Sunday, that Darius, he thought he needed that game against the Knicks on Thursday night just to have as much confidence as possible heading into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And he was so hyper-focused and Kenny said this, Darius was so hyper-focused on regaining his all-star status and getting off to the season hot to then put behind him the struggles of the previous year that once he kind of reached that all-star break, it wasn't that he took his foot off the gas, but that would have been his goal all summer, and then it was a natural just kind of decline, and now they have another goal ahead of them, which is now win the championship and perform at that level. So I'm expecting to see a good Darius. One guy I'm a little concerned is not the right word about, but I'm interested to see how he performs at this level is Ty Jerome. Because throughout the entire season, there hasn't been a better player in basketball on a permanent basis. Ty Jerome comes in off the bench almost every single night he's asked to and changes the complete complexion of the game.
It's funny you say that, man. I was going to say Ty Jerome I have this weird confidence in for no reason.
No, it's not lack of confidence. It is now that teams are going to play the Cavs 4, 5, 6, 7 times in a row, and you're going to play Ty Jerome 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a row. Our team's going to be able to adjust to his unconventional offensive game. When you're playing different guys every night, and then Ty Jerome comes and plays a completely different offensive style than everyone else. Think of the elite scoring guards in basketball. Does anyone move to the basket like this and throw up shots like that and use the little deceleration step and play in slow motion to a way that is literally counter to what Donovan and Darius and some of the best guards in basketball, Halliburton, Brunson's the other guy that's closest to him, but most guys in basketball are going fast, 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 quick, 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 and Ty's the opposite. He's going slow, slow, slow. How will defenses react to not necessarily knowing what's coming, but being used to it because they're playing the Cavaliers 4, 5, 6, 7 times in a 2-week stretch as opposed to seeing him once every blue moon? So he's a guy I'm interested to see. A, can he keep up this insane production and efficiency? And then 2, once defenses get a little bit of a better read on how he operates and moves because they see it, in back-to-back games, 3, 4 games in a row, will they be able to shut it off, or will Ty Jerome continue to be the most impactful player in the NBA on a permanent basis?
One thing you said that I just wanted to touch back on is, you said, well, he played well against Boston, Evan Mobley, but they didn't have Porzingis. That's a pretty big thing.
Gigantic thing.
I mean, he has not played well against Porzingis.
7'4" thing, yeah.
And he has struggled against Porzingis, and I have a lot of confidence in Evan Mobley heading into the playoffs, but I will be nervous when he plays the Celtics. Because if he struggles against the Celtics, as he has against Porzingis, they will not win that series. He's got to play like an all-star against Boston. Like, they can get away with one of their best players not playing great against Atlanta, even Milwaukee or Indiana in the second round. But if Mobley, Allen, and Garland don't all play well, they're going to lose to Boston. I think it's that simple. They've got to play their A game to win because Boston is either just as good as them, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse, but it's close enough that, and Boston, you have no doubt they're going to play well.
Well, their health's their question right now.
What's that?
Their health's their question.
Well, sure.
Jaylen Brown's dealing with a knee sprain.
Right, but those guys have proven it when it matters.
Yes, fair.
If you're a Celtics fan, guys may be hurt. You may be worried about that. There's not a single Celtics fan on the planet that has any concern about their guys coming through in the playoffs. None.
That's fair.
Nobody. Where we as Cavs fans, even Donovan Mitchell, he's never gone to a conference final, ever. None of these guys have any.
Tristan Thompson.
Well, come on.
And DeAndre Hunter. On that Knicks team. On the Hawks team that got past Philadelphia.
So
but that was
of the guys that played, DeAndre Hunter is the only guy that gets that. That's a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference.
This is a championship team. Now, we got to get there first, and let's enjoy the ride. I think we can. But, the Celtics is a whole different thing. And, if Porzingis is healthy, and you never know with him, he might not be by the time the Cavs play them potentially. But if he's healthy, that's going to be something to look. That matchup is probably going to be the difference in who that wins that series or not.
Yeah, Porzingis changes the complete complexion for Boston. But, Dustin, I'm not sure I've ever actually asked you this. Yeah. We talk about the difference in playoff basketball, regular season basketball. You played in championship level. I know it was college football. And did you play in the playoffs in the NFL?
I did not play. I was on the team. The Eagles, we made the playoffs. I didn't play in the game.
Could you feel
or games
just the difference?
Oh, yeah.
In the, can you kind of explain just
I was on the
different sport,
but, I was on the sidelines.
But even back in college when you made the national, is there a ramped up intensity? Is there more of a locked in approach all week throughout the entire team in the facility?
There was when we played in the Natty. I just remember that preparation up until that point. It was different than anything we'd ever done before. And then once you get into the game, like, it's completely another level. And I'm sure it's a little different than the first round of the NBA playoffs, where guys, you know, especially if you're the number one seed, like, you're kind of expected to win, as opposed to the level of intensity that the NBA finals would have, because that's just going to be a completely different level.
Yeah.
Also, tough to compare, like, football, where you play one game versus a series.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, if it's a game 7, for example, title on the line, you know, Cavs in Golden State, game 7, oh my God.
Yeah.
That would have been 10 times what
Yeah.
our national title was, probably. I mean, or at least, you know, comparable.
Yeah. And every round of the playoffs
Gets
Gets
ramped up more and more and more.
yes, there's more intensity, there's more pressure. And, you know, when you have one team that's handled that and one team that doesn't have the experience with that, it makes a difference. It's a factor. It doesn't mean doesn't mean the Cavs can't beat the Celtics if it comes to that, but
And the game's officiated different. And you saw it in the play-in last night.
I hate that, though. I do hate
It is
that.
stupid. It is stupid, but it is. It's just
1,000%.
the NBA won't come out and say it's a fact. You can use your own 2 eyes.
yeah.
They allow so much more
So much
physicality in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. And we could argue whether or not that's fair and how it should be, and why that doesn't really make sense, because you should have the same officiating
It's insane.
operating rules.
Yeah.
Right.
But because defenses shrink in the playoffs, because they're better scouted on what offenses want to do, because the referees allow for more physical contact down low, it's going to be imperative for the Cavs to get back to the three-point shooting level team they were prior to March. And we talked about it. They were number 1 in the NBA from the start of the season to the start of March. And they were 27th in the NBA in the month of March. And in April, you throw out the window because it wasn't guys who really played. So with the level of physicality, it's just tougher to get to the rim because there are more bodies compacted in the paint.
Yeah.
Guys are going to have to hit outside jump shots.
Yeah, and they did for most of the year. And I'm going to, at this point, I'm throwing away the last 6 weeks of the season. I don't care. They knew they had the 1 seed. They, you know, it's just natural to kind of let up a little bit.
Absolutely.
They got a little banged up down the stretch too. Any update on Donovan? Like, he's totally fine.
Totally
right?
fine. He practiced.
Yeah.
Kenny said on Sunday he was back up doing on-court workouts. They had 5 practices. They were going to give him his normal rest day, but they were going to do an inter-squad scrimmage, and he was a full go for that. So I'm not sure when during the week, whether it's happened or will happen.
Yeah.
But Kenny said he's full go, 100% ready for the playoffs.
All right, we're going to have Dane Brugler with us in just a couple of minutes. He just put out his 7-round mock draft 8 days to go before the regular season.
Do we want to look at that before we bring Dane on so we're all on the same page?
You want to bring it up? Yeah, go ahead. Anthony, can you bring that up? He at the end, he listed all the picks by team. The Browns obviously have a lot of picks because they got a bunch of they have 4 6th-rounders. What, 2 3s, 2 4s, and 4 6s?
I think it's
They will
2
not
6s, 2
pick at those
7s.
spots.
No.
No
The
chance.
Browns love trading around in the later portions of the draft. Let's see what he's got, Dane Brugler here. So, can we put that full screen and I'll just talk over it? It'd be a little easier to see it that way. Can we do that or no? There we go. Thank you. All right, so he's got Travis Hunter going to.
There were no trades in this draft, by the way.
Right, he doesn't do trades.
No trades.
It makes sense. So he has Jackson Dart going 33 to the Browns. I know a lot of people think Jackson Dart will not be there at 33, so we'll ask him about that, if he thinks that's realistic, that Jackson Dart could be there at 33. There's your guy, Ozzie Trapilo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Out of Boston College.
You mentioned you want to trade up into the first round.
No,
for him.
he's not one I would do.
67.
No, he's not one
He
of
was
the
on
ones.
that list.
Well, I just listed the next top 5
All right,
offensive
well,
tackle
next
prospects.
top 5 is going 67, so maybe not trade up for the first round.
He wasn't
again.
one of the ones I would do.
Good old Ozzie. He's with us? All right, let's go. Well, there you go. Savion Jones with the 94th pick in the draft. Jordan James, the running back. And then the rest is like 6th and 7th round picks. There you go. So we'll get into that. Obviously, we're going to spend less time on the picks 180 and beyond than we will do in the beginning. Let's bring in Dane Brugler of The Athletic.
Yeah, before we bring in Dane, guys, real quick, this segment is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it super easy to post your job, share it with your network, and get your qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. And it's no wonder that 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
Nice. All right. Dane Brugler of The Athletic. He's a busy man this time of the year. 8 days to go before the draft. Dane, your 7-round mock draft. Are you just throwing darts at the dartboard by the 7th round, Dane? What's happening there?
Look, it's a good scenario to play out for me, just because you're taking into account team needs, trends, who's going on the 30 visits to where. You try to connect the dots as much as possible. But obviously, when you get to the 6th round, 7th round, we're more throwing darts than anything else, and it's like, all right, I want to make sure I get this guy in there, that guy in there. But yeah, it's not an exercise that I'm gonna be exactly right on when we get to the 6th round, 7th round, but it's still an interesting exercise because it makes you think about how general managers think, how the board might play out. So it is a beneficial way to look at it for me.
So when you do your mock draft, it sounds like you're talking about information and visits and stuff like that. Are you leaning towards what you think the teams will do as opposed to what you might do if you were the GM of that team?
I've never in my life done a mock draft where it's what I would do, because I don't, that's what my rankings are for. Right. That's what, the mock draft is all about what I'm hearing. Yeah. Again, you try to connect the dots as best that you can. And it's difficult when, you might have a good idea of what the teams in the 20s are going to do. But if the first 20 picks go wildly different, then all of a sudden there's a domino effect, and that changes everything else. And so that's why it's always difficult doing mock drafts. But and I think mock drafts kind of get a little bit of a bad rap. But you know what NFL teams are doing right now? They're doing mock drafts. They want to know, okay, hey, if we're picking at 18, how are those first 17 picks going to play out? And so they go through all these different scenarios, and just so they have a good idea of, hey, okay, if this scenario happens, we're ready for this. If this other scenario happens, then we're ready. So they're going through all these exercises in war rooms right now as we speak. So they're prepared on draft night for anything goes, and we'll be prepared.
Last thing about the process here, before we get specifically into the Browns, I'm curious. Over the years that you've been doing this, do you find there are some teams, and if so, who are they, that are easier to read the tea leaves than others?
Yes. Some teams will deviate. Other teams have a very strict process, and it goes position by position. A team like the Packers, they want certain thresholds in terms of length and speed at receiver and corner. Certain teams, if you follow their 30 visits, then you have a good idea of, okay, this is who they're interested in. And especially for the non-combine guys, if you are a non-combine player, your chances of getting drafted aren't great. But if you're on a 30 visit, those chances go way up because teams don't have the medicals for you if you didn't go to the combine. So that's where the 30 visits come in. And so the non-combine players, there's always, a couple dozen non-combine guys drafted every year. Watch for those guys that go on these 30 visits. That way, teams are going to have the medicals on you, because if they don't have that, they can't draft you.
So it seems like everybody, regardless of who you are, believes Cam Ward is going to go number 1 overall. And then after that, it's like, okay, who's the next quarterback? Where's the next quarterback going to come off the board? Shedeur Sanders, it seems like a player that could be there for the Browns. Will be there for the Browns, most likely at 2, but not a lot of people think that the Browns will go in that direction. I don't think you believe that either, right?
No, and look, I've been consistent with kind of my thoughts on Shedeur Sanders. I think he's a good quarterback, but not one I would take top 5. And look, for whatever reason, throughout the process, I think it's been either you have to love him or hate him. And look, I'm here to say you can just like him, and that's okay. But at the same time, I'm not drafting a guy that I just like in the top 5 picks, especially when a guy like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter are staring me in the face and I have a chance to add a true blue chip or a true impact guy. Now, obviously, there's some people probably screaming at their screens saying, just get the quarterback right. And 100%, I agree. But it's not, if you take a quarterback at 2 and it doesn't work out, it's not like, okay, you just, you move on. Like, that also meant that you missed on a potential blue chipper at number 2 at another position that you can really build your roster around. So this is a really unique quarterback class. We were spoiled last year, 6 in the top 12. This year, we might only have one quarterback in the top 20. And then the quarterback run is going to start probably in the back half of round one. I only had the one quarterback in my mock, or the two quarterbacks in the mock, but there's a good chance we see those trades back half of round two, whether it's the Giants trading back in the first round, the Browns trading back into the first round. And so it's kind of like an exercise in musical chairs, because we know who the teams are that are looking for quarterbacks, but where they feel comfortable drafting those guys will be, especially when you factor in Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck has a lot of love around the league, quarterback out of Louisville. And so, and I get it. It's funny. Like I was the high man on Tyler Shuck going into the Senior Bowl, through the Combine, and now it looks like I'm low on him because he's always been right around the 50th player on my board since December. And in January, I looked crazy. Now I look like I'm a little bit lower on him compared to where he might go. So it's just that's kind of sums up the draft season.
Dane, in your 7-round mock draft, you had the Browns taking Travis Hunter. That appears to be where most of the wind is blowing, at least 8 days out from the draft. In your mind, is it a no-brainer for the Browns to take Hunter at number 2?
In my opinion, yes. And it was funny, a week and a half ago when things started to shift from Abdul Carter to Travis Hunter, like it was this big news, and it's like, all right, guys, this is the best player in the draft, Travis Hunter. Why this shouldn't be news that the Browns would be considering him at number 2? And I think for different teams, because obviously being a two-way player is really unique. For different teams, he's looked at it in a different way. For some teams, they believe, hey, this is going to be a top 3 corner in the league. So his primary position is going to be corner, and we're going to give him a package of plays on offense, try to get him 8 touches a game on offense, but primarily he's a corner. For a team like the Browns, we know they need a spark on offense. I think he's probably going to be a primarily offensive player in Cleveland, and then you try to figure out how you play him on defense as well at corner, and you want to try to utilize both ways. It's tough. We've never seen it done before, but he did it in college. I think the skill set says he can do it, both the physical skill set, the athletic skill set, but also the mental commitment that it takes to understand the playbook on both sides, your responsibilities, and the instincts to just go make plays. He showed he can do it. So I'm in terms of impact potential, I'm not going to take that away from him. Let's let him play both sides, offensive threat, defensive threat. I think he can do it.
Mel Kiper was on ESPN Radio here yesterday, and he said that Hunter was his best graded prospect since John Elway. I know, Dane, you just said that you had Hunter as your best prospect in this draft. Are we talking about Hunter in terms of prospect grading, which doesn't necessarily translate, but just in terms of grading prospects, in like elite territory, like maybe the best in 40 years, like Mel Kiper suggested?
I won't go that far. I wasn't on this earth 40 years ago, but I will say that, in terms of the true blue chip non-quarterbacks that I've scouted the last 20 years, like he's close to being in that category with a Myles Garrett or, some of those guys that were true, no doubt about it. I mean, Myles Garrett was drafted number 1 overall in a draft where, we saw several other quarterbacks go, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and I don't think anybody flinched that the Browns took Myles Garrett number 1. It was just that much of a no-brainer. Travis Hunter, it's kind of the same way, where this is a no-brainer at number 1, and whether you play him on offense or defense, the athlete, the ball instincts, he's just wired differently. And everything that I've heard from teams, from people around college, say he's really wired the right way in terms of it's all about ball. He loves his fiance, he loves to fish, but everything else is just all about football, and that's what you love. That it's just he has the gifts physically, athletically, but he's also really locked in as a football player.
Jackson Dart is an interesting prospect who you think the Browns could take at 33. If we're getting late in the first round, Dane, you see the Browns waiting to 33, or could you see them coming back into the first round to try and make sure they secure their quarterback?
Yeah, and it just depends on what's the gap between Dart and Shuck and Milroe, or if Shador is still on the board. What's the gap between these guys? That's where you get into a little bit of risk versus reward. How much are you willing to gamble that he'll still be on the board for you in the second round? And what's the asking price to be able to move back like that? And obviously the Browns, they have 2 third rounders, so they have a little bit of ammunition if they wanted to package say pick 94 and 33 to go up a little bit into the 20s to go get that quarterback. Really, it's a small price to pay if you think you're getting your franchise guy. It just all comes down to how much do you believe in the player. And, these second tier of quarterbacks are like, they'd all be behind Bo Nix, who was drafted 12th overall last year. And so all of them have question marks. With Dart, I see why people love him. He's got the tools, size-wise, arm-wise. He's a really good athlete. It's just that offense that he played in Ole Miss. You're studying this offense, and I didn't come away saying, "Oh, what a beautiful read, what a beautiful." I'm thinking like, "Wow, Lane Kiffin is a madman," because his schemes and the way that he cooks things up, it just puts defenses in conflict over and over and over. And that's not saying that Jackson Dart can't go to the NFL and adapt to what will be asked of him in a pro-style playbook. It's just that he doesn't show it consistently on tape. So it's an unproven area for him of playing football. So that really clouds the evaluation. But he's a great competitor. I mean, talking to his teammates, they love him. Absolutely love Jackson Dart. The intangibles off the charts. And again, he has the physical tools. So as long as you believe in the player and that he has the mental capacity to really digest the playbook and develop, it would make sense. And he's going, in Cleveland, obviously, when you have Flacco and Pickett there, he won't be expected to start from day one. Now, hopefully you see him at some point during his rookie year, but he won't be pressed into action before he's ready. And I think that's going to be key for Jackson Dart.
Dane, I'm going to fight my instincts and try to give the Browns the benefit of the doubt with who they pick at 33 between Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shuck, guys you've mentioned. In my mind, Milroe makes the most sense because he has the one elite trait that I see the most upside. Who knows, right? But if they're all a question mark, why not take the guy with that elite trait? Why did you ultimately mock them with Dart as opposed to the other two at that 33 spot?
Yeah, and I think you're onto something, because that's something that NFL teams talk about as well. Is just, okay, if these secondary quarterbacks, this second tier, if we're going to bet on one, why don't we bet on the one with the best upside, who we look at back 3 years from now and say, oh, how would he fall this far? And that's what we're saying about Jalen Hurts, a Super Bowl winning quarterback who wasn't drafted until midway through the second round. But can Jalen Milroe, do they believe enough in Milroe that he will reach that ceiling? That's the big question mark. But I mean, you're absolutely right. He is so dynamic as a runner, and it's immediate speed too. I mean, the way that he can just eliminate those pursuit angles with his legs is astounding. He had 12 rushing touchdowns last year that were 10 plus yards. That's the most by a quarterback in college over the last 25 years. And he also has the arm. You watch that Georgia tape, you watch the Wisconsin tape. And so this year he had 16 passing touchdowns, which not a super high number, but those 16 passing touchdowns, they averaged 36.6 yards through the air, which says something about the way he will attack down the field and just the arm strength that he offers. So Milroe's tough, because you watch that Georgia film, you watch that Wisconsin film, and you're bought in. You say, okay, sign me up for this guy. But then you watch Oklahoma, then you watch Michigan, and you're like, all right, he needs a lot of work. This is something where from the mechanics to the pocket feel to a lot of things that some coaches will look at and say, either you have it or you don't. Other coaches might say, hey, we can work on that. We can develop him. So there's a lot of wide-ranging opinions on Jalen Milroe. Some think that he should go somewhere top 40, top 50. Other teams have third and fourth round grades on him. But I reported 2 weeks ago he accepted an invite to the combine to the draft in Green Bay, and that says something. We've seen quarterbacks in the past. Malik Willis, he fell to the third round. He was at the draft. We've seen it before, so it's not a guarantee. Will Levis. I mean, he was more of drafted in the 40s. So, we've seen it before where guys have fallen a little bit. So it's no guarantee he'll go in the first round or even the top 40 picks. But there's a lot of, or not a lot, but a certain number of teams around the league that are thinking like you are, Adam. Okay, upside is there. Let's bet on the guy that in 2-3 years from now, if everything hits, we've got something here that could really pay off.
Dane, we mentioned the 7-round mock draft you put out this morning, and if you want to take that full, if you could we talked about Jackson Dart and Travis Hunter, but just if you could give a quick synopsis on some of the other guys you had mocked to the Browns, because we put out the picks this morning. And the immediate response was, no Ohio State players, this is terrible. So if you want to inform some people why just not having a Buckeye does not automatically make this mock irrelevant, and give us some insight on some of the guys that we may not be as familiar with other than the top two.
Well, let me tell you, when the Browns are stacking that board and they're deciding who to pick, the decal on the helmet's not going to matter at all, whether it's a Buckeye or somebody else. Like, they just want good football players, and Ohio State has a lot of good football players this year. There are 15 Ohio State Buckeyes in this mock draft, which would tie the record for most draft picks in a 7-round draft. We'll see if can the right tackle Fryer maybe sneak in there, get him the record. I don't think so, but we'll see. For the Browns, so in the 3rd round, I went Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College, who played left tackle, played right tackle. He's really tall, and so that leverage, rushers can get underneath him at times, but he has really good feet. He moves really well. The tenacity that he plays with, I think, will fit in Cleveland really well. And you think about the offensive line situation, hopefully DeJuan Jones can really take another step this year. Jack Conklin, hopefully we just see him on the field for 14, 15, 16, 17 games. But you need to develop somebody behind those guys, and I think Trapillo would make a lot of sense. Savion Jones from LSU, big, physical, can play the run, set a hard edge, but can also give you some juice getting after the quarterback as well. They need somebody opposite Myles Garrett. I mean, they've got some good bodies, some interesting players. Alex Wright, I think, could maybe take another step here. Isaiah McGuire, I like a lot, but add some more pass rush help to what they have behind Myles Garrett. And then we think they're going to go running back at some point, but this is a draft where you can wait a little bit. You don't have to take one 2nd round, 3rd round, and feel like you're getting good value. They can wait till the 4th round, 5th round, and still get a really good back. And that's what happened in this mock scenario. Jordan James out of Oregon, one of my favorite players in the draft. I mean, he's not a home run hitter, so if that's what you want, Jordan James is not for you. But he might lead the league in doubles. He's that type of guy. So not going to get you 60 yards, but he's going to get 6 consistently. No-nonsense runner. He's got that short area burst. He will find the hole and get through it, and always looking for the sticks. So big fan of Jordan James and what he could bring. You pair him with Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong still there. I think he upgrades the run game.
Speaking of running backs in general, I know you talk about the 4th round could be an area where Jordan James could be available. I do like overall. Ashton Jeanty, is he going to be a top 10 pick? Is that even like if the Browns picked him at number 2? Is that insane?
I mean, I don't think it's insane. You could say he's one of the best players in the draft. I think I don't think it's insane to take him number 2. I think it'd be very, very surprising to pass on a Travis Hunter or an Abdul Carter to go with a running back. Now, if you believe Ashton Jeanty's the next coming of LaDainian Tomlinson, by all means, go for it. But I think, especially in this draft, where running back is so deep, and I have grades or draftable grades on 30 running backs. Wow. 30 running backs are not going to get drafted. We're not going to see 30 teams draft a running back this year. So you're going to get really good value. You need a Devin Neal from Kansas in the 4th round, a DJ Giddens, a Damian Martinez, LaQuint Allen. There's a lot of running backs that won't be top 100 that you can still get later on. So Jeanty is going to be a top 10 pick. In my mock, I had him at 5 to the Jaguars. ETN's in a contract year, new head coach, new general manager. I could see that. You have to help Trevor Lawrence. If he doesn't go 5, good chance he goes 6. The Raiders need a run game in the worst way. We know Pete Carroll wants to establish the run. And then if he doesn't go 5 or 6, I don't think he's getting past 10. The Bears would snatch him up. So Jeanty's going to be a top 10 pick. It's just a matter of where. 2 would be pretty surprising. A running back. We saw Saquon Barkley go 2 not that long ago, so it's not unprecedented. But I still think you take Travis Hunter because, again, in my opinion, he's the best player in the draft.
Dane, Jay Crawford's part of the show. He's not here today, but he has 2 draft crushes. Will Howard, he is literally in love with Will Howard. He would take him at number 2 if he was running the Browns.
He's out of his
and
mind.
Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end out of Bowling Green. Which one of those 2 do you think ends up coming off the board first? It feels like Fannin's a little higher rated, but tight end versus quarterback, you never know.
Yeah, no, and all it takes is one team to love the quarterback. And once we get past those top 5, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Shuck, then it's kind of anybody's guess who's going to be that next quarterback drafted and where. Could it be Kyle McCord? Could it be Will Howard? A lot of differing opinions around the league about who that next guy should be. How do you argue with Will Howard and what he did last year, especially down the stretch? Once Seth McLaughlin went down at center, Will Howard really took over as the leader of that team, and the way he played in the playoffs, it was a team effort, obviously, some on defense, offense, but they're not winning a national title without Will Howard. Some teams are believers in that, the mental toughness that he brings, how big he is. He's got some mobility to him. The arm is average but good enough. Some teams a little more on the fence about, is the arm good enough to ever be a starter? So, and the combine didn't really help him. His throwing performance at the combine was rough. So, I think he's going to come off the board probably somewhere in that 4th round, maybe in the 5th round. Maybe reunite him with Chip Kelly over there in Vegas. I think that's a possibility. But I think he's projected as more of a backup than a guy who would be a starter. Harold Fannin Jr., I wouldn't be shocked at all if he ends up staying in Northeast Ohio. Canton native. He's young, 20 years old. We know how much age matters to this franchise. Doesn't turn 21 until July. And how do you argue with the production? 117 catches this year at Bowling Green, and you could say, oh well, he played in the MAC.
Everybody knew he was going to get the ball every play, and they still couldn't stop him.
But watch him on the Texas A&M tape. Watch him on the Penn State tape. Going up against SEC Big Ten defenses, they couldn't stop him. He had over 100 receiving yards both of those games. But yeah, to your point, he was the centerpiece of that offense. Everybody knew it. Still couldn't do anything about it, whether he's running the seam or just leaking out as a receiver. He's a little bit awkward as an athlete, but he's straight line explosive and he catches everything. And so, a guy that was basically a safety in high school that, credit to the Bowling Green staff, they saw a vision for him, brought him to BG and developed him at tight end. He still has growing to do and developing to do. And so I think this is a player I see in the 3rd round most likely. And again, with the Browns, those 2 3rd-round picks, if one of them was Harold Fannin Jr., wouldn't be shocked.
Dane, I want to wrap it up with one on the Steelers and one on the Bengals here before we go. So you have the Steelers taking Shedeur Sanders at 21. If Shedeur is gone by then, do you think they take another quarterback? Are you convinced they're taking a QB at 21, or is it Shedeur or nothing for them?
No, I think Jackson Dart could be their guy. I wouldn't be shocked if they took Jackson Dart over Shedeur. Once we get into that range, it's just pick your flavor. Everyone looks at these quarterbacks differently. So, and I'm not convinced they're going to go quarterback there. I don't know what they're doing with their quarterback situation right now. It seems like Aaron Rodgers will be the short-term option. They love Mason Rudolph still. So if they love one of these guys at 21, that could be the pick. But they don't have a 2nd-round pick either. So do they feel like, maybe they go with another receiver if they're going to trade George Pickens? Do they go with a defensive lineman there? So I think there's a lot of different ways the Steelers could go.
All right, last thing with the Bengals, they have done a terrible job drafting the last couple of years. I mean, just awful. And everybody they haven't spent on defense. Well, they've been drafting all these defensive guys, and they've gotten them all wrong for the last couple of years after they had done such a good job before that. So I'm dubious in believing they'll get it right this year. I know you have them taking defensive tackle. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Derek Carman out of Oregon, yeah.
Okay. And now, I'm insane. I would and I don't think it's going to happen, and you don't have this happening. I'd take one of the 2 tight ends if they drop, those 2 good tight ends. I know you don't think it's going to happen. I'm just outscore them. Just outscore them. Let's go. But because I'm just assuming whoever they take on defense is going to suck. But they do need defensive tackle. They need another pass rusher. They need a safety. They need guards also. But you think this guy's the best fit, and he won't be a bust?
Well, I think he's a really good player. Derek Carman's outstanding. He led all FBS interior defensive linemen in pressures this year. He has power. He has quickness. He can play the run. He can get after the quarterback. I mean, if he's there at 17, because above all, the Bengals need an impact player on defense, whether that's a defensive tackle, linebacker, edge, corner. They just need an impact player. I think Derek Carman could be that guy. But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. Miles Murphy has been a bust. Dax Hill hasn't panned out. DJ Turner. So they really need to hit one down the fairway on defense. But hey, you know what? If they really lean into what you're saying, I wouldn't be shocked if they went Gray Zabel there and really cement, get that offensive line in a good spot. So you're protecting the quarterback to score all these points. I wouldn't be surprised at all. They're going to draft a guard somewhere in the first 3 rounds, whether that's in the first round, second round, third round. I wouldn't be shocked at any of that spots.
Dane, great stuff, man. Awesome job on the 7-round mock. Always one of the best things out there.
The Beast also, if you haven't looked at it.
Yes.
Incredible job as always, Dane.
Yeah, you're the best. Thanks, Dane. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There it is. The Beast is here. Check it out. Dane does such a good job, man.
Yeah,
with this stuff. He's unbelievable.
That thing he puts together, because he's been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Because I remember back when we were at the Fan, we'd get those things and we would print them off, and I think they wanted to fire us because
it's like this thick.
Dude, we printed so many of those things that I think they were like, run out of paper.
They were taken out of our paper. That's why we didn't get raises for 5 years. You know, that's why that happens.
Shots fired.
And you got to read before we.
On that note, not a read now, Mike. Get it together. You're not the producer.
We do have a read.
No, we're doing a read
before
we go to our next guest.
But we're waiting for our guest, Mike. Go be a host. I got
just
this.
relax.
I thought we got to
there.
get in the other 3. Okay.
Just relax with your.
He forgot we made all the graphics at the bottom of the show, so I was just making sure.
Jack box
you like this little classic Cleveland?
I'm just busting.
Where'd you get that shirt at?
The
Cracker Jack box.
The homage shop. Yeah. Shout out to the dog.
It's homage.
Homage, yeah, it is.
Did you say homage?
Homage, whatever. Homage.
Does this dude know how to talk?
No,
homage.
Homage.
I love you, buddy.
Homage, don't
gotta
play
keep you on your toes.
You do.
Gotta keep you on your toes.
You know.
Hold on. After the Shuck thing, anytime I'm next to him, I second guess every word I say out loud.
Do I look at you like?
No. Well, the mustache is a little creepy when we're this close and you give me that little smirk. But like the Shuck, I have to say it in my head before I say it out loud. It's bad. I just mouthed it on TV. I didn't mean to. But
Shuck. I don't know.
Shuck.
You're feeling the pressure right now, Mike.
Whew.
All right. In terms of what Dane had to say there, I mean, excellent insight. He confirmed what we've been saying all along, that Travis Hunter is kind of a no-brainer too. Once you've decided that none of the quarterbacks are worth taking it to. And again, if the Browns shocked us tonight and took Shedeur Sanders, I would not have any problem with that whatsoever. I'm on board. But if they've decided none of these quarterbacks are worth a top 10 pick, then to me it's an absolute no-brainer. Even if you think Abdul Carter's great, why would you take a great pass rusher over a guy who could be a great corner and a great wide receiver? It just doesn't make any sense.
Especially when your pass rush was halfway decent last year to begin with, and you just paid Myles Garrett $40 million a year to make that part of your game.
Yeah, I just don't think. I don't think any of it. I don't really think it has anything to do with Abdul Carter. This guy is going to be great at both.
And Abdul Carter played running back as well.
Yeah,
and you had a pass rusher running back combo versus Travis Hunter, the receiver cornerback combo.
Yeah, that is a different conversation. And now taking Jackson Dart at 33. I mean, obviously we don't know.
I'd be shocked if he's there.
I don't know that. I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, because you don't know what the teams drafting in the back end of the first round think about Jackson Dart compared to the other guys. If I had to guess, I'm going to bet that 3 quarterbacks go in the first round. It's just a guess.
I'm guessing 4.
I don't think it's going to be 4, but we'll see. I don't know. I think, a lot of years everybody gets anxious. This year it might be a situation. Most of the teams that need quarterbacks are picking in that top 10. And if they all pass on them in the first round, I think we could see just patience. Thinking like, okay, these guys are all similar talent, whatever. I just think in the end, and as I said to Dane, Milroe, it may be a small window, but he has the most upside in my mind because of that crazy athletic ability.
I love Milroe, and I love the athletic ability. I think that he can get better as a passer and not have to be forced into action right away as a rookie.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Hunter, Milroe in your offense, man, it's explosive, right away.
My only
crazy.
And even with Flacco, play Flacco this year, get Milroe involved in the offense.
Right. They did with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore.
He can play running back. He can put the ball in his hands. He can throw it. I mean, there's a lot of things he could do.
That's right.
And add Travis Hunter. I mean, that's exciting, at least for this year.
Absolutely. And he gets his feet wet playing in the NFL without the pressure of being the starting quarterback.
If you draft Milroe, you have to really trust Kevin Stefanski, though. Like, that's kind of they kind of go hand in hand here.
I think at this point we sort of have to. I mean, the Browns are saying that they trust him.
Yes. And
I'm not saying you shouldn't, by the way. I'm just saying you have to have the faith in Stefanski that he can actually develop.
Milroe, you can't fire Kevin Stefanski after this year no matter what happens.
No matter what.
You got to keep him because if that's his guy, and he's like, I can make this guy into,
the
next
Lamar
our
Jackson.
version. I hate to compare it to Lamar Jackson. I don't like using like Lamar Jackson. It's not fair to Milroe. It's certainly not fair to Lamar
But the
Jackson.
situation could be similar. The player may not be, but the situation could be.
Yeah, he just, I don't know. I mean, they'll win enough games probably with Flacco that Stefanski won't get fired, but to me, it's a multiple-year commitment if you're drafting Milroe because he's not going to play or he's not going to be a starter, most likely this year. All right, we got our guest or no?
Our guest isn't ready yet, so let me get these reads out of the way
Go
first.
ahead.
Just like
Get it out of the way. Let's knock it out.
We're going to do a FanDuel read here real quick. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And I love how easy FanDuel makes it, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
All right, coming up in just a little bit, we'll have our next guest, of course, Ben Solak from ESPN, NFL writer, less on the draft and more, and I'll be curious to his
Big
take.
picture Brown stuff.
Yeah, on Joe Flacco. And Dustin, yesterday we talked a little bit about Nick Chubb and the Instagram post. Did you see that?
So, no, I've not seen it.
Yeah.
Tell
you
me
heard about it? Oh,
Somebody
no.
said something about it. Good.
He just said, what was the exact quote, Mike? Do you remember? He
Basically said, "Stop counting me out before my comeback."
Yeah, I got plenty left.
They wrote the ending as my story's just beginning. I think
That's the story's just beginning.
Okay.
Some people were taking that as if, he's coming back to the Browns.
He's not coming back to Browns.
I don't see that at all. But somebody's going to give him...
If anything, then that makes me think he's definitely not coming back to the Browns.
That's what I said yesterday.
It's like he's finally realizing he's not coming back to the Browns.
That's right.
Because the Browns have counted him out,
Yes.
and now he's going to find somebody else and prove everybody wrong.
Funny.
That's how I take it.
Yes, yesterday I was here with G and Tyvis. They did not take it that way. I took it the way you did, that he's saying he's out. Somebody's going to give Nick Chubb an opportunity after the draft. And I'm rooting for him. I hope he has a great season. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, guys,
got a
before we
guest?
bring in our guest, today is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, and in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver all the things we need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. And they handle your supply chains like nobody else. From small businesses with big dreams and to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners, easier finds the lane. You can discover success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
All right, Ben Solak is with us from ESPN. There he is. Ben, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm well, man. How you been?
We're great and happy to have you with us. I think we're all ready for the draft to happen, right? I think.
No, you're not enjoying the 35th Shedeur Sanders conversation of the year. Wonder where he goes.
No.
Oh man, quarterbacks are exciting. You not like it?
I'm kind of done with it. Ben. No, I think we all feel it this time of year. Everybody's done with the draft. I mean, it's exciting. The unknown is exciting, but now we just want it to happen. I'd like to see the NFL draft moved up a couple of weeks, but they like us just talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. Anyway,
I bet. Yeah. When the draft, mock draft breakdowns outperform NBA games on TV, it ain't gonna get moved. That's the nature of it. It allows the NFL to just own so much of the television schedule. So yeah, I think my wife is sick and tired of hearing I got to go watch prospects for like the 95th day in a row. She probably thinks I'm just lying to avoid her at this point. It's a long process.
I think the TV show that they have for the schedule outdoes the NBA and Major League Baseball. I mean, that's how sick we are, really. We're all insane. In a great way, I think. I hope. But we're all insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I'm curious your take. Let's start with Joe Flacco. If fans here, you'd think that the Browns just signed, Patrick Mahomes, because we're so excited. Everybody's super pumped for Joe Flacco. How big a difference do you think he makes in terms of wins and losses for one more season?
Yeah, I mean, Flacco's the only passable quarterback play the Browns fandom has seen in 3 seasons it's been now, or 2 or 3. It's Flacco's not a needle mover. I understand that he had the good end run 2 seasons ago. They had the good end of the season. But in general, this is not an impactful passer at this stage in his career. He just throws up a lot of prayers, a lot of 50-50 balls. He's willing to take the deep shots, which is, it's good for variance. Okay, if we connect on a couple of these, we'll score points quickly. And so he has a skill set that can keep you afloat. But this isn't going to change an offense. This isn't going to save a system. This isn't going to, make the Browns look like it suddenly works, especially with the receiving core that now lacks Amari Cooper. Obviously, Joey Jeudy had himself a nice season, but Judy's a lot better kind of in the separation game, not so much in the deep passing game. And so Flacco, to me, does not register. It does not change my perspective on the Browns. He's certainly better than starting Kenny Pickett. And Kenny, like that, it's clearly an improvement. But if he plays, he's the 30th, 29th best quarterback that's going to be playing on a given Sunday. So you can't use that as a way to elevate the Browns' outlook in 25. You still need to go and get yourself a rookie quarterback.
Cam Ward goes at 1. Let's assume you're picking at 2. Travis Hunter for you or no?
Yeah, the whole way. Since the first time I put on Travis Hunter films, I was on Travis Hunter 1 to the Titans because I think he's that caliber of a prospect, right? We throw the word generational around way too often. This is one of the times you actually get to use it, right? The kid can play both positions. He moves unbelievably. You cannot teach the way that he makes tackles miss, the way that he makes tackles on the defense side of the ball, the way he addresses the football in the air, the toughness, the catch radius, all that in a bag of chips. And I also think he is very justified and very correct in his assessment of his ability to play both sides of the ball. When he says if I don't play both sides, I won't play. I think that's mostly just kind of a young man puffing his chest out. I don't take that too literally. But when he talks about, listen, I've been doing this my entire college career. I kind of know how to prepare, how to work around the margins. I believe him. That's a compelling case to me. When he talks about, hey, I have enough conditioning and enough energy to play over 100 snaps. I agree with him on one Sunday. I don't think that's probably true for 17 Sundays over the course of a season. But on one Sunday, I think that's accurate. He is that caliber of a player. And so to me, Hunter is the sort of guy where I want to get him in my buildings. I can't draft an athlete like this anywhere else in the draft. No, I can't even draft him next year. It's not going to exist next year. And then I'll figure out the step count later, right? I'll solve that problem in August. I just want to get the dude in April because you don't get cats like this in the draft very often.
So you add Travis Hunter to an offense with Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Jerome Ford in the running back, and Joe Flacco. We'll choose Joe Flacco over Kenny Pickett for the sake of this for the offense. Ben, what's the ceiling for that Browns offense? Could it be a top 15, 16 unit in football, or is that still one of the bottom dwellers?
I think that's a reach for it to be a overall in the season above average offense. That's going to be an offense that has peak games, that has spike games, right? If you think about just Jerry Jeudy's time with the Browns, right? There's those games where he vanishes, and then there's those games where it's 10 catches for 125 yards and 2 scores, right? I remember that Broncos game, right? That primetime game. Judy's always been a little bit of a mercurial player like that. So if he's your primary guy, I love a David Njoku. I think Njoku is one of the more underrated players in the NFL. He also is a guy who a little bit more has his spike weeks as opposed to being a consistent, 6 catches, stick mover sort of a guy. So you're going to have a few games of Browns offense where the line is healthy and Flacco is on, and we're able to put up some points against our AFC North contenders, right? Always play those close games. But on a week-to-week basis, there's just not enough to fear with Flacco in the backfield. I think Ford in that running game, especially, again, the line stays healthy, a little bit scarier, but if that line deals with injury again, you don't scare me too much on 1st and 10 with the running game. And so now it's all on Jeudy, a rookie receiver, and Travis Hunter, and Njoku, and Joe Flacco to beat me through the air. Just on the caliber of NFL offenses, they're getting so good these days, that doesn't clear above average to me now.
Yeah, Ben, I agree with you. I think it's unlikely the Browns would be a top half offense. But I think it's important. So often we're obsessed with getting the highest draft pick, and at some point when you've done so much losing as a franchise, I think it's good to have, especially if you're going to draft a quarterback in the second round, and hope that guy's the future. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But I think at some point you got to start winning and building a winning culture in the locker room. And Joe Flacco, if nothing else, gives them a better floor and a level of professionalism and legitimacy to the offense where, yeah, I'm with you. They're not going to be top 16, but they won't be one of the 5 worst offenses in the NFL either. They'll be a competitive offense, and so they'll be a competitive team. Not a playoff team probably, but a competitive team where they're not picking first or second again next year probably.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think it'd be hard for Stefanski to coach a bottom 5 offense. I think it takes what you've gotten from Deshaun Watson over the course of his time in Cleveland for that to happen. And that's legitimately bottom tier quarterback play. And then you also have a defense that, the 23 season, okay, true dominance. The 2024 season, okay, we can't ask the defense to just solve the whole problem for us, right? Like, they were put in so many bad positions, and you had some regression from some key players. You had to deal with some injury in the second level, whatever. But that defense can still win you games, right? If you're getting somewhere between the 2023 season and the 2024 season level of play. That's also going to get a few notches in your win column. I agree with you on the culture thing in a big way, especially when it comes to that second-round quarterback. If you want to develop that guy, you need to have an offensive infrastructure that can withstand some of his ups and downs. If it's all on him right away to elevate the team, he's going to crumble under that pressure, right? But if you have Judy, Hunter, and Njoku saying, hey, if you just kind of point and shoot, we can solve this problem for you, that takes a load off the guy, right? If you get healthy seasons along the offensive line, you get to some of those previous levels of Brown's offensive line play, that running game wakes up a little bit, that helps develop the guy because you can live with his ups and downs a little bit more as he adjusts to NFL play. So it is big to kind of start to establish, even if it's like, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs this year, but we have a functional system on offense. We have a culture of, all right, guys are doing their jobs now. It helps foster the development in the young guy.
You mentioned Deshaun Watson, Ben, and I'm just curious. We've talked at length too much about Deshaun Watson since he's come to Cleveland. It happened to be the same year this show started. As someone who's not in Cleveland and covers the league as a whole, do you ever anticipate Deshaun Watson playing in the NFL again?
No.
Easy enough. No,
it is a pretty easy answer.
He's not here. I just wanted to ask an honest opinion.
I don't know why we're even asking this question anymore. There's no chance he's going to play. Ben, during the like September, August to February, our panel is like 4 people, and some of us are here, myself included, every day. And this time of year, we pare down to 3, and each of us get like a couple of days off. And the other day, they had this conversation.
Well, ESPN wrote the article. It was an ESPN article. Ben works for ESPN.
Job by ESPN, Ben. I don't know who wrote it.
It was Daniel Oyefusi, who works with us.
Yeah.
Listen, there's no way on earth. Why would anybody bring in Deshaun Watson, who sucks and has baggage? You can't have both.
I asked the question. He said no. We can move on. It was easy enough.
I wasn't insulted by the question at all. I just think it's that plain and simple.
I didn't expect a longer answer.
I'm trying to make your life tough. I just think anybody Deshaun Watson? No shot, 0% chance. My jaw would hit the floor if another team ever is like, let's get this guy in the building. I would be stunned.
Yeah,
we're all on the same page. He worked for the outlet that put the article. I just wanted to ask a smart football mind what he thought.
I'm more annoyed by Tyvis the other day saying, he's gonna, he'll get a workout. Why would a team give him a workout? You don't want to deal with that.
I'm not Tyvis. Benjamin's not Tyvis. Right. Like you're coming at us like we said something.
Oh, I'm coming at you. Not him.
He's no upside.
He said no, but
Dustin, please change the subject.
All right, go ahead.
This is the easiest problem I've ever caused in my life. Just one word, I got it done. That's great.
One word.
Is Kevin Stefanski safe for the Browns no matter what this year?
No, I don't think so. Just because you eventually run out of real estate, you run out of leash, right? I think that Stefanski is generally a good coach. I like what he does on offense. I like the way that he's tried to solve problems as they've had personnel change, quarterbacking changes, running back changes. They've messed around with the scheme to try to make things work for Deshaun. I think generally he has a sharp offensive mind. At some point, you just run out of highway, right? Of runway to give a guy, another chance, especially when, as ownership, I imagine the further you get away from the Deshaun Watson decision, the more you're going to want to just completely clean house so that way you can put it to bed as best as possible, right? So, Haslam was very clearly like, all right, the Deshaun thing was a mistake. That was terrible. That was dumb, whatever. Stefanski, Barry, they get another season. It's not that good. Okay, fire them both, bring in new guys. Then you get to sit at that press conference at 26, be like, it's a new era of Browns football, which no one will believe. But you get to say it, and it makes you feel better as the owner, what have you. And so I do think that they're running out of runway. There's stuff they can do to kind of save that job this year. I certainly can. They certainly can, because again, I think good coach and a sharp general manager. But it's a thin ask right now, just because of how long they've been there and how poor the team has been under their purview.
Ben, do you think Johnny Manziel will ever play another game in the NFL?
He's like 40 years old, dude.
No,
fun to watch, Johnny.
Seriously, if the Browns do take the quarterback at 33 or they trade up, who do you like the most of these guys being talked about in that range?
Yeah, I like Shock, the kid out of Louisville. Now, he's 25 with an injury history, so you have to be cognizant of the red flags, right? He only got good very late in his career because he was dealing with a substantial amount of injury. Only started playing well when he was 4 years older than his contenders. Those are, that's the same thing Kenny Pickett did when he was at Pitt. Like, late bloomer. And late bloomers typically are guys who weren't that good enough to bloom until they got like a ton more experience than everybody else. So There are certainly red flags. But if you look at NFL-style passing concepts, the deep play action stuff, like he has the ability to kind of execute the concepts that are quite common to the base Stefanski offense. Think about that 2019 Baker Mayfield menu of all those rollouts and those heavy personnel, the tight end sets, like that sort of thing you'd want to give Shuck. Solve problems with this. We can design a tricky offense around that. Those two are my preferred guys. Not as big on a Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, but I'd get it.
Ben, not a Browns-related question, but we had a discussion earlier on today's show about how analytics may have gone a little too far. How we got away from not looking at advanced numbers to now looking at every advanced number humanly possible, and it's kind of taking some of the human element out. When you do your writing, I know you like using advanced analytics and numbers, and you do a great job with that, but do you ever find a point where you're using numbers that are there to help a case, but you don't necessarily truly – how do you balance analyzing football using the numbers but also using the eye test and the people test?
Yeah, so there's a fundamental truth of statistics in football, which is that counting stats are not very good. Touchdowns, passing touchdowns for a quarterback is just not helpful, right? It doesn't tell me how good the quarterback is. It tells me the way that the offensive coordinator likes to call the game. It tells me how often they might have been trailing and they needed to put points back on the board. It tells me how good the wide receiver might have been at back shoulder fades and also how good the quarterback is. But generally, it just doesn't capture what we need it to capture. So most of the good stats in football, from the ones that are outside facing, one that we use in the media, are those that try to contextualize our counting stats. When we talk about like expected points added, big fancy name, EPA, we are basically saying yards adjusted for situation. We're saying 9 yards on 3rd and 7 is better than 9 yards on 3rd and 11. That's all we're saying with EPA. That's very handy. It's very helpful. We should all use that and integrate that. That's going to help us understand who's good a lot more accurately than counting stats will. Once you go beyond that, and you start saying like, all right, like this is the, a full teams level adjustment, EPA on play action, on second down, linebackers moving, you've lost the thread because the football and each individual football play is so highly contextualized with 22 players on the field. It is so hyper specific to how each guy was aligned and which foot was in front of the other, where their weight was, what the call was, what down is the defensive coordinator trying to get to, what trick is the offensive coordinator trying to play. We lose far too much context when we try to go beyond simply let's adjust yards for situation. Let's adjust completion percentage for depth of target. Let's adjust yards per carry to how well the line blocked the play. And so there's a hard cap on what stats can do in football relative to some of the stats in baseball and in soccer because of the discrete nature of plays. Because each play is its own little war on 1st and 10. It brings you to a 2nd and 7. Then there's a whole separate war that happens on 2nd and 7 and so on and so forth. So you have to be very cautious of using plays just to give, using stats just to give a little bit of additional context and then trying to go no further. That's always how it's going to have to be in football. Yeah.
Hey, Belichick's at North Carolina. Does he stay there? Does he come back to the NFL ever, you think? Will he ever coach in the NFL again?
So I think it's possible. I think it's more likely than a lot of people are giving it credit for right now. Like I would say, 30% chance he's coaching in the NFL next year. I think most people are at 10, 15.
Yeah.
The issue is with every year that goes by, Belichick loses owners, right? Because the owners right now who are kind of interested in him are the old heads, right? Mm-hmm. Arthur Blank with the Falcons. You've heard Jerry Jones talk about it with the Cowboys, right? Those older owners are the ones who are still worship at the altar of Belichick. They still remember what he was. And so those are the guys who are kind of more willing to, you think, potentially give him another shot. The old owners, the new money, you just don't hear them talk about Belichick because they aren't as, still awed by what he did, right, in the early 2000s and into the 2010s. And so if it's not this year, like after the season for UNC, it becomes a little less likely. And if it's not after 2 seasons, it becomes a lot more unlikely, right? It really diminishes fast because he needs these older owners who are still going to be in control and still have power for the next 5-6 years. He needs those guys to be the ones to make the decision. And so if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I think there's a decent shot, but we'll see. I'm very interested to see how this year goes for UNC. You could convince me 2-11. You could convince me 11-2, and anything in between.
But here's the important question. Will his teenage girlfriend be the GM of the team that hires him?
I saw there was a piece about that yesterday at The Athletic. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I'm very about how involved she is. I'm fascinated. I think that's
weird.
Listen, I'll put it to you this way. I think someone who's not a football operations person having a highly outsized impact on a team, both the college and NFL level, is probably a lot more common than we hear about, but we get to hear about this one because it's Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend, and that's very funny to me.
Ben, I got one last one. This is Browns related. Jerry Jeudy had a breakout season last year here in Cleveland, by far the best of his career. Was that the peak of Jerry Jeudy, or do you think he can get even better?
I think that's about the peak. Judy is a very tricky player for me. I remember I didn't love him coming out of Alabama, and then with the Broncos, he's going to do this. It's your breakout. Finally, this. And he gets to Cleveland, and the thing about the environment in Cleveland where he broke out last year is that there was just no competition for targets. There's just none. Right? Amari Cooper is gone. Elijah Moore hasn't done it. Been what we wanted him to be. Cedric Tillman had his good couple of games, then he's absent. David Njoku misses some time. It's all got to be Jerry, and that's where Jerry's at his best. Right? Where it's just like, the ball's going to Jerry. Jerry's the first read. Just run any route you want, brother. Do your 10 release moves. Get into the slant 5 minutes late, but we're going to throw it to you anyway because you're our only option. That's where Judy's going to be at his best. You don't get that sort of environment on healthy teams. On healthy teams, there's 3 other guys who deserve the ball, and you're not always going to be the primary guy. You have to be on time in your route. You have to be active on the backside. You have to make tougher catches through contact, and just that's never where he's been strong. Alabama and then into Denver. And so I think what we saw last year, where he kind of thrives in an environment where just the offense is Judy-centric. It revolves around him, the passing game. That's where he's going to be at his best. I'm very interested to see if the good year he had last year will help him, be more willing to integrate when he kind of more so becomes wide receiver 2, which I would imagine would be the case if they do take Hunter and they play him at wide receiver, or if he gets frustrated. We'll see. And so to me, that last season was the peak. But I've always struggled understanding completely how good Jerry Jeudy can be and where he's best and whatever. So he's an interesting player to watch in 25 for sure.
Ben, on a scale of 1 to 10, how insane would it be that unnamed people wanted to have a conversation about him being an All-Pro last year?
8. There's so many good receivers. This is the problem, right? Like I was like, again, the counting stats were excellent. Absolutely. You go look at yards per route run, which is how we adjust for receiving yards. Say, okay, how many opportunities did you get? How many more routes did you get to run than Ladd McConkey on the Chargers, who run the football way more? A.J. Brown on the Eagles, who the Eagles lead in the second half, so they don't need to pass the football. You adjust yards for route run, Jerry Jeudy's counting stats start to look a lot more, mundane.
Right.
Now, obviously, in the history of All-Pro, we've never given the award out for yards per out run. We used to give it out for yards because that's all we had. And so I understand the argument, but yeah, there's way too many good receivers for me to feel like, Jerry Jeudy's got to get his name in the All-Pro conversation.
Ben, I appreciate that. You basically just said everybody but me is an idiot on this show. Thank you.
Yeah, that was my objective coming in. So I feel good.
Thanks,
we
Ben.
appreciate it,
Thanks,
Ben.
Ben.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care, fellas. You'll be well.
Ben said you guys are all an 8. Well, Dustin wasn't here, so I can't throw him under the bus.
He got a vote, which means he was in the conversation, which means I was right.
No, he never belonged in the conversation.
He got a vote, meaning he was in the conversation.
Well,
that is literally an unchangeable fact of this argument.
And what that meant is whoever gave him that vote should have been fired. I mean, that's an unbelievable.
That is an irrelevant part of this.
No, it's
the
not.
fact
He was
of the
not
matter
in
is
the
he got a
conversation.
vote.
He was not legitimately in the
He got a
conversation.
vote, Bo.
He was a fraud, nice player, not a Pro Bowl caliber. Not an All-Pro caliber player.
Does he lead the team in targets next year?
Not if Travis Hunter's here. I don't think.
We'll find
I don't
out.
know. All right, Anthony.
All right, guys, before we do Super Chats today, they're brought to you by Living for We. Gun violence is an epidemic. It's the leading cause of death for teenagers. On this season of Living for We, we're asking what can be done to end the cycles of violence in cities like Cleveland, where the shooters value their reputation over their own lives and see innocent bystanders as collateral damage. Living for We is more than just a podcast. It's a resource for communities tired of chaos and ready to build peace. Living for We tells real stories of those affected and solutions from change makers in the community, the family, the parents, the victims, and everything in between. The mission is simple: empower communities to create safer neighborhoods free from gun violence by highlighting local heroes, connecting resources and solutions, and building bridges through honest, community-driven dialogue. Join hosts Marlene Harris-Taylor and Maisha Watkins every Tuesday for a new episode for Living for We. Keep your head up. You can find this award-winning show wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch full episodes by searching for Living for We on YouTube. Guys, we got 3 Super Chats today.
Yeah.
Our first one comes from Mr. 216, probably my favorite of the day. Bull needs to put condiment lube on his food. It'll be easy for him to swallow. Pause.
What?
Dad, I read that word for word.
That I don't even understand. Do you guys understand that?
Yes, I
telling
do.
you to use
do.
ketchup.
He's telling you-
Double entendre, buddy.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Shout out to Skilly
That's
for 10
disturbing.
gifted memberships today.
Thank you,
Shout out to
Skilly.
Skilly.
Our next one comes from Ronaldo Archer. To demonstrate the ineptitude of the Browns since the 70s, who was the last Browns defensive player inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Defensive player?
Defensive
Defensive.
player
I mean,
in the Hall of Fame.
Clay Matthews is there, hasn't gotten in.
Well, their last Hall of Famer is Joe Thomas.
Right.
Who was before Joe Thomas?
Ozzie Newsome?
Did he go in as a Brown?
Lou Groza.
Did you just ask that question?
Did he play defense too?
Ozzie Newsome? What do you mean did he go in as a Brown?
Well, I'm saying, does he have the different bust for his Ravens general manager career?
I don't think.
And as a
I don't know
player?
If he's in the. Is he in the Hall of Fame as a general manager?
I thought he
No,
was.
he's in as a player, dude.
He's in. I know he's in as a player.
Well, I know he's in as a player, but I wasn't sure if he was in as both, and I wasn't sure if it was a split. Like,
no. He was a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, well, he's one of the best tight ends.
He is a great all-time.
He
great
had the
GM,
record
too.
until Amari Cooper, and then Drew didn't break his receptions record, but.
Well, and who else? I mean, I don't know their last defensive player.
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, the chat when the super chat came in, most of the chatters said it was Clay Matthews, even though he's not.
No,
in
Clay
yet.
Matthews is not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but they were
not.
saying
Browns
they were advocating for Clay Matthews to be the last one.
Here,
It's
let
got to
me-
be somebody for the 50s and 60s. I don't think they've had anybody since then that I can think of.
Mike, while you look it up, let
Jim
me
Brown, Otto Graham, Lou Groza, and Ozzie Newsome. And then the other ones include Len Ford, Frank Gasky, Mike McCormick, Bobby Mitchell, Paul Warfield.
I mean, those guys are all, old ancient history. Old, 50s, 60s.
Bill Willis and Max Speedy.
Yeah, no, those are all long time ago.
We talking about Hall of Famers?
Yeah.
Joe DeLawmelier? What did he play?
But he played more for Buffalo.
I know, but he's I mean, his name's
was an offensive
his name's
lineman.
in the stadium.
Joe DeLawmelier is an offensive
Was he O-line? Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
All the pictures are black and white. I have, honest to God, no idea how to tell
I
who.
think Joe Thomas and eventually Myles Garrett are their only Hall of Famers since at least the 70s and maybe the 60s. So
Mike McCormick, do you know what position he played?
No.
let's leave it there.
All right, our last one
got
today
one more?
comes from Charles T. Did you guys ban G. Bush from the show when you have mock draft guys on? Dustin has gone full Florida. Undercover cop, Bull grow the beard back already.
Grow the beard back?
Yes.
No, I shave the beard once a week.
Dude, by the way, I'm telling you, I've never in my life had unanimous people like the mustache.
Yeah. Is that why it's full Florida? Because he's got the mustache?
I'm
Hair
assuming
and
yes.
hair and mustache probably.
Yeah.
Probably a little of this. The
Yeah,
hair is getting
I
long,
guess
man.
so.
I'm gonna need a man bun soon.
Henry Jordan,
Yeah.
their most recent defensive Hall of Famer.
When did he play for them?
6'2", 248-pound defensive tackle.
Yeah. Played when?
He was a senior. He was the 5th-round pick in the 1957 draft.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I never heard of him. I'm not going to be a phony. I never heard of Henry Jordan, who got drafted 70 years ago.
Played
So,
163
there you go.
career
I think
games.
we could, it's been
He
forever.
died in 77.
Okay,
R.I.P.
there you go. All right, let it go, Mike. That's it.
That's our super
For
chats
super
for today.
chats. Final thought. So yesterday, guys, had the kids out for the final Little League practice before a spring break. We played a scrimmage against another team. It was so cold. One of the coldest it's ever been in a baseball. My son is never cold.
Yeah, he wears shorts like every
Wears
day.
shorts all the time. So not for baseball, you got to wear pants. But he was the only kid there without a sweatshirt.
That's
He's wearing a
probably
t-shirt.
bad parenting.
Dude, my
Okay.
son and daughter don't wear coats.
Yeah. And
They're
so
like allergic to coats.
it is crazy.
I didn't start wearing a coat until like 25, so I get it.
Yeah, but all the other kids had sweatshirts on. And by the last inning, Aaron's like, because he's like, Dad, can I DH it so I can sit in the car?
Dude, I was at a track
I'm
meet
like,
yesterday
yeah.
with my daughter.
Yeah.
And where the
It was
track's at.
awful out yesterday.
Where the track's at,
Yeah.
it's like a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
Dude, it was the coldest I've ever. I mean, I
Bone
felt bad.
chilling.
I felt bad for the kids.
Well, because it was like 40 degrees and it was super windy. Like
Yeah.
The
25,
wind was
30.
crazy yesterday.
It was
whipping.
nuts. But anyway, we scrimmaged.
How's the team look? You got a chance this year?
I think so. It's weird because the group of sixth graders we had last year was such a high skill level, and this group it's not quite at that level. There's some good players, but it's going to be interesting because last year there were like 4 pitchers in the league that threw super hard. I don't think there's going to be any. I might have the best pitcher in the league on my team, a kid named Owen, who's a really good
There's
pitcher.
pressure on you this year then.
Well, I don't know if there's pressure.
I mean, on the hot seat after last year.
It's Aaron's last year at Little League, so I'm gone at the end of this year anyway.
Hot seat to a 10.
Yeah,
if you
but-
leave without a championship, well, that'd be a disappointing
really
coaching career.
I want to see him hit a home run because he hit a line drive in our first scrimmage to left center. I mean, he's knocked in 3 runs in the first 2 scrimmages, and
Nice.
when he gets a hold of it, he's so big. He's the 5th biggest kid in the league, And the other 4 kids that are bigger than him are all at least 6 months older than him. So, see, I should have held him back a year, and then for sports, he would have been, forget about it.
Would have been a giant.
He was
I got to
still in the 5th grade.
come out to a game
What
again.
league does he go to next when Little League's done?
If he wants to keep playing, it'll be Babe Ruth, but I don't know that he's going to want it. He he likes baseball, but he doesn't love it. So I don't know if he's going to want to keep playing. We'll see.
See you in overtime.
See you in overtime.
Pete.